Hey, what's good, what's good, what's good? Welcome to Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast.
We're here in New York City, and we have invaded the Sound Collective.
I'm one of your hosts, DJ Crooked. We have NYC legend here from Beach Street, one of the legendary and premier party rockers in the building. We got two actually premier party rockers in the building, but we got DJ Goldfinger, Brooklyn's finest.
What up, boy?
And this guest, I've been wanting this guest probably since I started a podcast, 7 years ago. He's been on our bucket list. We finally kind of got, some leadway this year. I finally got to, speak with him, and I think this has been in the works for like 6 to 8 months now. Been trying to work it out. Finally,
he's a busy man.
He's a busy man. Finally, he had one of my favorite nights in New York, and it was a weekly dancehall reggae night at in the basement of Mission. It was Mission nightclub by Canal Street, and I used to go there weekly. And it was just like, it was crazy. It was like the Sean Paul "Give Me the Light" video. It was just like,
stop hanging on the damn furnace.
It was like that. It was just like this sweat box, and it was just all this energy in there. And I was just like, this motherfucker's amazing. And I went there to listen to all the new dance hall, and it was in Manhattan. It was like, for me, it was like easy access, go downtown. But he's one of the most renowned, respected reggae dancehall DJs in the world. Founded the Federation Sound in 1999. They just celebrated their 25th anniversary. Congrats.
Thank you.
And he's worked with some of the greatest reggae artists of all time, from Sean Paul, Shaggy, Mavado, Baby Sham, and the newly released Vybz Kartel. He DJed for Rihanna, was a music director for years, doing her tours. And he's one of the premier party rockers in NYC. We have two of the greats in the building. And I'm very honored to have him here, DJ Max GLAZER.
Glaze, what up?
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for having me on here, man. It's I've been watching what you guys are doing, and it's always like a joy to see and listen to great conversations with DJs, the DJs that I'm not so familiar with. But when I really love it is when I get to see people like Goldfinger on and Clark Kent and DJ Soul, and the people that I came up DJing with as my contemporaries, and also the people that I looked up to as legends in DJing, and so much of DJing and DJ culture really comes from and through New York. Like now it's very worldwide. But same, birthplace of hip hop and all of that. So to get to hear all of the gems that everyone shares with you guys, it's like a unique thing when a bunch of DJs sit down and have the conversations, and I'm sure this is how the podcast came about.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do, like, we're all setting up, and you and Goldie are talking about everything I want to hear. I'm like telling y'all, like, shut up, like, let's save this for the podcast.
That's the scraps. We didn't leak any of the good stuff even before we started.
I think we were like doing 20 minutes on DAT machines and record stores and shit in New York. I'm like, this is what I want to hear on the podcast.
Okay,
it's amazing.
All right.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got you here, and congratulations on 25 years.
Thank you.
The Federation Sound,
no doubt.
And I'm kind of curious. I know you and Goldie were going off. Do you guys remember the first time like y'all linked up and y'all met?
I don't remember like a specific first time meeting Goldfinger. I just knew that like he was everywhere.
I remember catching you at Fat Beats. That was kind of early. I remember you working there.
Yeah, because you worked there. I didn't realize you worked at Fat Beats and 8 Ball Records.
Yeah, that was most of my work career outside of DJing. Was record stores. First at 8 Ball for a bunch of years on East 9th Street.
Yeah.
And then when Fat Beats moved over to 6th Avenue, Eclipse called me when they were moving, and was like, "Yo, I want you to come work here." And I kind of was like, like I played hard to get.
Yeah.
And then maybe like a month or two after they moved, I called them back and I was like, you know what, let's do this.
And they're two polar opposites. Like 8 Ball Records is like dance house haven.
Yeah, very much so.
And then you got like Backpack Underground hip hop at Fat Beats.
Yeah, I mean, Fat Beats definitely was the place of backpack and underground hip hop, but also like I was a big part of that world and very into it and loved it. I was also writing and interviewing people at that time. But also one of the things that I very much, that Fat Beats did before I got there and then I added on to, was like, you could go in there and get like your Bad Boy albums and you know, so it was very much known for underground, and there were certain things that like we wouldn't really carry heavily, but also wanted to be a place, like it was a business, I wanted to be a place where like if a DJ is coming in for their Most Def and, you know, Reflection Eternal, but also they have a party to play that night,
you can still get the goods.
You could still get, you know what I mean? It was like,
it was true.
You could still get that stuff. And then when I went to work at Fat Beats, I petitioned for quite a while to get a reggae wall. And so it's actually funny because the only section, it ended up being the wall right behind the DJ booth. So in pretty much every picture of anyone DJing in Fat Beats is sort of like, there's a Beanie Man album, there's a Strictly the Best. Right. Because my thing was like, look, like everyone needs to play that 10 or 15 minute reggae set.
Right.
And let me do the ordering. Let's give them those records here. Let's not make them go somewhere else.
Right. It doesn't make sense if they're buying records that they would have to go to another record store to buy records.
That's really the only New York thing, is to always have a 15, 20 minute dancehall reggae set, like ready. But it's definitely more of a New York thing. When I started like traveling to the West Coast, I'm like, oh shit, this shit isn't translating. like motherfuckers don't give a fuck about this 15, 20 minute set. You know, it's more like it's like a 2-minute set now.
It's like 2 records. New York. No, but that's a New York thing because of the West Indian population of New York, the diaspora, the Jamaican population, which is, you know, it's the population of I mean, it kind of fluctuates, but like I've always heard it as there's more Jamaicans in New York than in Jamaica. Because of migration, but so there's a few places, and it's so intertwined with the birth of hip hop, but also the culture of hip hop clubs. Brooklyn, New York is so heavily intertwined with Caribbean culture and Caribbean people that's always been a part of our thing. And there are a few places that are like that. London is like that, to a big degree. Toronto is like that, and Miami can be like that, right. And it's places that have these really high concentrations of Jamaicans and Caribbean people.
What's good, everyone? This is P-Dot from Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast. Whether you're just discovering the podcast or a day one listener, if you've been loving the content and want more, here's your chance to support the pod, get closer to the action, and unlock exclusive content by joining our Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can join our Tier 1 R.O.A.D subscription. This is for our loyal listeners who want early access to new episodes 3 to 4 weeks ahead, your name in the credits of every video episode, and access to our exclusive R.O.A.D edits pack. For the hardcore supporters, we've got our Tier 2 R.O.A.D for Life subscription for just $10 a month. This is the all-in package. You'll get everything from Tier 1, plus a monthly bonus episode, early access to our exclusive R.O.A.D 10 and R.O.A.D Talk interviews, behind-the-scenes content, our In the Crate series, along with unreleased projects. This is your chance to support the podcast and get more of the content that you love. Join the family today at patreon.com/R.O.A.D podcast. Check the link in our descriptions. We appreciate you, and let's keep this journey going.
What would you say was the best place to get like dancehall records in 45?
What would you say?
In New York?
I would say
gotta be in Brooklyn, right?
Superpower early on. And then after a while, I guess, you know, I worked in a record store, so it wasn't that hard for me to get reggae. But Superpower is more so I guess that was the real heart.
Superpower would have been the rock and soul of reggae records, you know, sort of like like I always considered rock and soul like if you only had one record store as a hip hop DJ in New York, rock and soul would be your place, and for a city record store. Maybe not. but like
coming biased.
Coming from Beach Street.
That's what I'm saying. For Manhattan.
Okay.
No, because Beat Street and Rock and Soul were very similar. Both of those, you could get your hip hop, you could get your reggae, you could get your house, you could get your R&B, and you could get your classics. You could get a full spectrum of, covered a lot of DJs. Right. You could cover your whole night because we were all playing you know, a bit of all of those things. So Superpower, so he was in those stores before I was, for sure. So Superpower was sort of like the, like to me, like the gold standard. It was like, okay, nah, you know, when someone was like, okay, you like reggae, but like you've been out to Superpower, and I was like, no, and I was so then, but also like with reggae, I found, and once I started, a great friend of mine, Paul Bruciano, rest in peace, was the person that first was like, oh, you like reggae, so you go record shopping in Brooklyn? Mm-hmm. He was like, 2 questions. He was like, oh, so you've been shopping in Brooklyn? I was like, no. He's like, you buy 7-inch or you buy 12-inch? And I was like, yeah, I don't really like playing 45s. Like, if I get it on a compilation. And he was like,
you ain't really been shopping.
He's like, all right, what are you doing next week? And then we went out on the train and hit the dollar van, and I was like, my life was forever changed. But
when was that? When was that?
I was working at 8 Ball. Paul moved up from DC and was working at 8 Ball. And he was like a deep house head, and also like one of my 2 or 3 like absolute reggae and dancehall gurus. And he was just like, loved getting people into it, and sort of like didn't approach it in that sort of, let me say, standoffish New Yorker way of like, oh, what do you know about so-and-so? His thing was very much like, ask questions and bring you in, and then take me to the record stores, and so sort of like
you can discover yourself.
Encourage rather than test, which is kind of the New York way.
Yeah, it totally is.
To test you. But I always found that like for the reggae stuff, because it was all imports, it was all coming in from Jamaica, small quantities, that you had to hit a bunch of stores.
You had to. In the Bronx, they have some really great stores as well.
Moody's would have been, Moody's and Superpower would have been comparable. But I was not going to the Bronx.
Right.
Were you?
No, they had Moody's. They had Moody's chain. They had a chain of.
Oh
Moody's.
Yeah.
So they would have a Moody's in Brooklyn. Burdell's. They would have a nice selection of reggae, but for the most part, Superpower.
Right. Superpower was the Macy's. They had everything. But so like, and so Superpower was further down. So when Paul first started taking me, we would go take, I don't know, like the 4 to Utica. Right. Hop off at Utica and Eastern Parkway, start walking down the hill, and you would start hitting record stores. This is like later on, there was a record store called Digital, which I think was where Ricky Blaze first worked when he was young. Wow. So like you would hit Digital, and then there was like another one that I can't remember the name of that you could walk to. And then first time in my life I ever got in the dollar van. Then from there, the next record store.
Explain the dollar van. What is that?
Well, I'll explain it to you. So he was like, yeah, we're going to take the dollar van, whatever. So I was like, okay, you come out of the record store. There's just like a nondescript van of some sort.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like a shuttle
going down the avenue, like an unlicensed.
So basically, where the trains most likely wouldn't be at.
Yeah.
And these blocks are pretty long in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
They would service those other streets or the main street and just drop you in between those spots.
It's like a gypsy cab shuttle.
It's like a gypsy cab because
like a jitney.
Yes, exactly.
In that part of Brooklyn, so sort of like the one train line went out like this, the other one went out like this, and Flatbush was here in the middle of it, so you couldn't. So like,
I completely forgot about
you could hop on the city buses. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then he's like, yeah, we get some records, hop in, and then like first time in the dollar van, like I'm going to hop out, like he hops out. I probably had like a patty in a bag. I'm chilling, like go to hop out, and the guy's like,
dollar.
I was like, oh yeah, oh wait, yes, we have to pay for this. But I was just like
vibing and shit.
Yeah.
They're playing loud music. Your life most likely is in danger at some point.
They're playing loud music. There's like 2 ladies in their nursing uniforms on their way to nursing. There's a kid coming home from school. There's like a couple of goons, and it's just like a whole. So you're just like, it's a lot going on. Like first time,
totally.
Because I didn't grow up with it and completely. And the guy was like, my man. And my boy was like, oh yeah, you got to give him $1. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, dollar van, I get it. I get it.
Wait, what year was this? Because you moved to New York, you moved to the city in 1992, right?
I moved to the city in 92, 2 days after I turned 18. I moved to the city, and I've been coming for years before that. I grew up in Woodstock, which is 2 hours from the city. I would take the bus down. I would come when I was a little kid. My dad grew up in Queens, so we would come and do city stuff, go to museums, school trips, all kind of stuff. And then when I was a teenager, I would take the bus down on my own, buy tapes and buy records. And then I moved in '92. Wow.
And then you always wanted to be in the city. You always wanted because of the access to the music, or what was it?
Yeah, I did not have. My college application process was the extent of it was NYU and
Columbia.
And Hofstra.
Okay.
It wasn't about like NYU being like, it wasn't like the league. Like, yes, NYU and Columbia like in the league.
Yeah.
It was more like NYU's in the right spot.
Gotcha.
In the right spot.
You're right in the smack dab in the city.
And Hofstra, I was like, all right, if I don't get into NYU or I can't afford it, Hofstra is like you just hop on the LIRR, but also Hofstra has this incredible hip hop legacy. This is where Chuck D, Public Enemy, Flavor Flav, going back before that, like of college radio, like Hofstra plays a huge important part in hip hop history.
Right.
So those were the two that I applied to. I did a weird thing. I did my senior year of high school in a community college. Basically, you only needed a couple of courses to finish out your high school credits. It wasn't like any advanced placement thing. It was just like, if you want to, you can do this. So I applied and I did that. So I went to, but also I was on my own. So I had a car. I didn't have to go to high school every day. I went to college and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I was 17 and then I had college credits. So it made it easier to apply. So applying to college when I was 17, turning 18, I already had college credits. I had been in college essentially for a year. And so, so I got into NYU and...
so you were like in high school and even in Woodstock, you were like a reggae dancehall head? Or you were like a hip hop head?
Equal parts. Equal parts. I was definitely a hip hop head from like, I don't know, in like 80 whatever.
Like, did you get access to like the New York City radio stations?
Yeah. Okay. We were close enough, sort of.
Okay.
We were close enough that you could rig up kind of like you had to figure it out, the right placement, but like an antenna with speaker wire. Take a long piece of speaker wire, wrap it on your antenna leads on your radio, and kind of figure out your spots on the wall. And pretty much consistently, I could get 98.7 KISS and BLS. Okay.
So you would get like Canada stations as well? Being a
no, we wouldn't get Canada. I could get KISS, I could get BLS, and then Stretch Armstrong tapes.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
We couldn't get Stretch.
Where were you getting Stretch tapes. Armstrong tapes? In Woodstock, or you had to come to the city?
When I was coming into coming into the city, or like someone. I wasn't buying them; they weren't selling them at that point. Fat Beats was the place that started they started duplicating them and making covers and selling them. You had to have a guy. You had to have someone who cared about you and was like,
I recorded it for you.
Was like, yeah, yo, hold this.
Wow.
So those would come through once in a while. So from like 12, 13, I was listening to that. Someone gave me Criminal Minded, BDP. And so that was like kind of pivotal, but that also really ties into reggae, heavy reggae influence.
Yeah, definitely.
My dad, amongst many other kinds of music, but there was always a lot of reggae in the house. He liked reggae. And like, of course, Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and all of those guys that were on major labels that in the 70s, but also he had a guy who was bringing back tapes from Jamaica in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, like not even mixtapes, just like I recorded a bunch of songs from records, the full length onto a tape, and had like Trinity, Dillinger, U-Roy,
so early
Lone Ranger,
Foundation,
like Foundation dancehall 80s style. So like I grew up with that around also, and I always liked it. So when I started DJing, it was also like of the time was a party, like you would hear hip hop, you would hear house music, you would hear reggae. There wasn't a billion hip hop songs. Like shit, in like 1988, you could probably play every good hip hop song back to back. Like you had to, like you had to cycle through other stuff. So like the culture of you know, like that would be like mid 80s, but then you're getting into the later 80s, and you know, house music is thriving, and if it wasn't all together in the same room, a big thing, and was you know, you go to Limelight, and the main floor would be house or a little more techno, and then the library would be hip hop,
right?
And then there'd be jungle upstairs. So you would have all these things that were like musically related to each other, in the same building. And like, you know, then one day, like just going out enough, someone was like, oh, we need someone to fill in at the library. So like I probably played for the first time at the Limelight, in there, what would be considered their hip hop room.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember like hearing about Riz being there, right? At Limelight.
Michael Todd.
And you were even at the Tunnel, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I played in the Tunnel.
You opened for Flex, right?
No, technically, it's more complicated than that. But so like, well, but so the Tunnel.
It would be opening because you came before him, but it wasn't like you opened for Flex.
Well, but like the Tunnel, in one respect, is Sunday nights at the Tunnel,
right?
Like in popular language, but also the Tunnel was a massive nightclub that had all different kinds of music. Right. So like, I had a bunch of parties where I would, you probably did too, DJ'd at Tunnel in again various rooms. There was an upstairs room, there was a Kenny Sharp room, there was the back room.
NASA,
I mean, there was even a DJ in the bathroom, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've played in the bathroom for sure. And there was all these different promoters, and you know, there was a period of years where Sound Factory closed, and Junior Vasquez, they built him his own booth in the Tunnel, and he would do Saturday nights. So I did a lot of those and worked for different people there. Played with Mark Ronson at Tunnel very early on, but I used to go to the Tunnel, the Sundays Tunnel with Cypher. And this was when Cypher was opening up. Wow. Riz had already graduated out of the Tunnel. Riz brought Cypher in, and Riz had graduated out of the Tunnel. So it was like Johnny Walker Red, Jermaine, then Cypher, then probably usually Cap, and then Flex would take it over. And so I would go all the time. We would go with Cypher, carry the records, 9 o'clock before the doors open. We're there. Frank Jugga's there with Flex's records. And so I was like, it's interesting because I've never just like, this isn't a good thing, but like my personality has just never been, like I'm not much of a salesman. I'm not like really a great hustler in terms of business stuff. So I was never a DJ that was like, yo, I'm so-and-so. Oh, you're the promoter. Yo, let me show you what I can do. I can DJ. I kind of was able to maneuver without being, you know, doing much of my own marketing or kind of politics in that respect. I wish I was better at it in retrospect. But the Tunnel Sundays was one of those things where I would be like, Cypher, yo, I want to do the reggae set. Can I do a reggae set? I want to show everybody what I can do. And it was interesting because unless there was like a guest, like Bobby Condors and Jabba would guest every once in a while at the Tunnel. Yeah. And then it was like, then Brooklyn really came out. Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx came out, and it was like, that was a bashment because they were the guest headliners. But other than that, the reggae set it wasn't just Flex. A lot of people did it this way, but Flex always did. The reggae set, he wanted as the 25 to 30 minutes before he got on to completely reset the room, level it out. I felt like, I can't read his mind, but I felt like he always looked at it as like, let's mellow this out. Let's bring this energy to a different place, because I'm gonna get on with, if it's, you know, whatever month it is, if it's Jay-Z, Do It Again, if it's The Lox, Wild Out, if it's Dipset Anthem, and destroy the place. And so you know, like if you know, like we all are DJs that do our own 6-8 hour nights. Like you need that flow. It's one of the issues that maybe we'll talk about later about like clubbing today. Is there's less of that
valley
ebb and flow,
right?
Where then you hit some slow jams, but then you come back to it and kind of like creating that. So the thing in the tunnel and the thing with Flex was pull it all the way back. The tide has to go all the way back, and then he's going to come.
Tsunami.
And then he's going to come in, crash with a tsunami.
It's like starving the crowd of any hip hop, so that any drop of hip hop that comes after you, they're just going to be like so thirsty for, right?
If they played hip hop before then, you kind of wiped the slate clean.
Well, there was always hip hop played before then, so it was like okay, and if the DJs were doing it right, it's still warm up, but you would like push those buttons like play a record. The warm up would be like something that was fire, but new enough that it wasn't peak hour yet.
Right.
Because you knew you could play it for a month and then Flex would take it over and you couldn't play that record anymore.
Right.
That was the tap shoulder that Syph would talk about. Like.
Oh man, give me a minute. I got shoulder tap. I got shoulder tap stories.
The tap shoulder was when one of the openers would play a banger. It was a new record that he didn't even hear about. Maybe Syph or you got it from the artist directly.
Yeah.
You started playing it for like 2-3 weeks. By the 4th or 5th week, it started really bubbling. And then you'd get the tap from Flex.
And that would be the prime time. It moved to prime time.
He'd be like, give me that record, right? A little.
Well, so there was two. There was that tap, but the other one that for me more was like you would be playing and the key, like the opening slot is the hardest slot. And it's fun.
You think?
I feel like you could play like the top 20 sloppy in any order. People are going to some degree while out to it. Less so back then. But I always felt like opening was a challenge because in those clubs, when you're not doing the whole night yourself, and you're opening for someone who's a headliner, that I always felt like the goal was to work around
what they may play.
What they may play. So you had to think about it and know how they played and what they were going to play, but also rock. Find the records that were going to rock and keep people's energy. Because if you just were on some like mellow whatever shit opening, you would also get the tap and be like, this sucks. You got to get out of here. So like keeping the energy up without, and it was like a lot of it for me was like album cuts, finding those album cuts that people were listening to and loved.
But he wasn't going to play that record.
But he wasn't going to play it, and he wasn't playing it on the radio.
Right.
But then, and some of those would grow, like a lot of DMX songs those would grow into like, oh no, this is the banger. And then those would get taken from you. And then you would know like, okay, I'm not going to play that. But so like my thing with the tap was like, if you be playing, he'd be like rocking and be like, okay, I'm good. I got good energy. We're rocking. Whoever, like, if it was Flex or if it was C or Cap or whoever is there, they're there and they're chilling. You're rocking. Like the longer you can go and keep it in that right space, the better their position is when they get on.
It's like finding the perfect in between a simmer and a boil.
Yes.
It's like, you don't want it just to simmer. You want it to be like raging right before the boil.
Yes.
The heavy boil.
And then, so for me, the tap that I always wanted to avoid was,
you're doing too much.
You went too far. You got it. You're in your zone. You're doing it. You're killing it. And then you like one record too far. And then it's tap and it's like, all right, pack it up. You're done. Because my goal was always, and with Cypher, was I wanted to play as long as I possibly could in those settings where I was the opener. And the more you kind of hit all, like you said, like turn the heat up, but not too far.
Right.
And so that tap was like, okay, you're done.
Okay, I didn't know there was two taps. There's the second. So the second tab you're talking about is like you're doing a little too much now.
Yeah.
Now I got to get on.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's like pack it up. Yeah. And then I'm just like, oh, cool. I'm ripping. Girls are paying attention to me. My boys think like it's all good. And then you get yanked because you went too far.
That's amazing.
But so the thing with the reggae set was, they wanted like a total clean slate. And for me, like reggae wasn't ever a throwaway. And for a lot of people, not for you either, not for culture and certain DJs, but for a lot of DJs, the reggae set, as you pointed out, was like, you're a New York DJ, you had to have that 15-minute reggae set. And like, as a record store guy, we sold a lot of people that reggae set that was like, yo, what do I need to be, boom, here's what you need to rock it. Right. But their heart, that wasn't where their heart was. And they were like, okay, cool, I know I get to a certain point, I have to do this. Like for me, my thing was always like, in this hip hop set, in Cheetah, in Speed, and wherever, how am I gonna make this reggae set rip as hard as possible? And mine isn't gonna be one 15-minute set. I'm doing like a 20-minute set, and then I'm gonna do another 15-minute set later. So like even in Chaos and places like that, where everyone was used to that one, I would always try to hit two, or my end of the night, because I'm not an R&B guy, would be like, I would then go down into old school reggae and kind of wind out and kind of wind out with that. So I always gave a little more. And so when it came to the tunnel and just that philosophy in general, my thing was like, yo, I'm not looking at this 20 minutes of
as
reggae for Flex or whoever as a throwaway. I'm looking at this as my time to shine. And also at this time, I was not on the mic, period, at all. So that was like a big, it was a handicap, for sure, because I didn't get comfortable being on the mic DJing for a long time. But like using what I had learned, like a lot from I learned a lot of it from Stretch. Stretch was a DJ who ripped and didn't talk on the mic.
Yes.
And developed ways of mixing and transitions, and kind of like, I look to Stretch as the guy where it's like, hit the part of the song that everybody sings, drop it, that's your transition into the record. So you've almost got the records and the crowd doing the part of the person who would be on the mic.
Exactly.
And it lifts up the energy. So I looked at that reggae set as like, okay, this is where like I can try to rip. And then like and so like one time they were like, okay, Max, you could play the reggae tonight. And I was like, fuck yeah. But it was in the night while we were there, and it was Sife's records. So I didn't have my records. And the turntables in there were on rubber bands.
Yeah.
The bounce.
Yeah, and
they didn't stuff like the napkins on the sides?
No, because that wouldn't help.
Yeah.
That wouldn't help.
It didn't. Yeah, certain places you could do that, and certain just the feedback, like,
and just the feedback and just the sound.
So just so our listeners know, back in the day, like even the tunnel, they basically dance house clubs, and the way dance house clubs were set up, there were 3 turntables, and then there was like knob mixers.
But like
Yuri's, right? Yeah. Or it was like the Rain with the 2 decks.
With the 2 pieces and the fader. So like Tunnel had, I think 3 decks probably. They were always up. So it was pretty much like a standard booth configuration. They were up very high, and they were set fairly far away from you, because down below at an angle
was the console,
was the mixer console. And so Tunnel
and the turntables were suspended
on rubber bands.
And they were just bouncy. So anytime you tried to like scratch or pull a record back, the turntables would just bounce.
It was an acquired type of skill that you had to have.
Yes, you had to have a very gentle and like exact like touch on it, and but at the same time, the reason why it was suspended, because they didn't want the feedback from the needle and the speakers and everything.
Right, in these huge clubs, and you would have the feedback, and like Goldie said, it was like a very acquired skill, because it was having a light touch, but it wasn't just a light. It was just you had to do it a bunch,
right,
and then you would get the feeling of it. And so the console was like down, sort of like almost like at waist height. In front of you,
right.
And look, there were other, at the Palladium originally, it was 3 turntables, rubber bands, and knobs. And I would watch people tear it up on knobs.
But there was a time in New York where any big club room, like the Roxy or something like that, they all had that setup,
because they weren't made for hip hop nights.
They weren't.
See, the mixers weren't made for hip hop.
They weren't made for hip hop nights, and so it's like, and so then they're like, okay, Max, you could do the reggae set. I'm there. It's Cyph's Records. It's this like crazy booth. And also, it's the middle of the fucking tunnel on a Sunday night with Funkmaster Flex and probably like 1,500 people, and that's still like warm up. That's like light. And so there was one Flex Sunday where I got to do the reggae set, and it was fine. I made it through. It was more one of those that I was like, I made it through.
Right.
I wouldn't look. I did not accomplish my goal of like, I'm gonna tear this down. I just was like that. At that point, I was just like, well, let me not flop. If I don't flop,
well, it wasn't your record, so it
wasn't my records, but also like I played it the way I played it. But then like moving into other spots, so that was like my one tunnel with Flex. But
wait, just a reference, what was the biggest dance hall record at that time?
Oh man, I don't know. That probably would have been. I feel like that was era of
Showtime, something.
Showtime and Bruck Out, because I remember taking Baby Sham to the tunnel and carrying Flex Don Juan dub plates of Bruck Out rhythm. So that was like, that's like 99, 2000 probably. Yeah. But like after the tunnel ended up at Envy, which actually I was doing first, and then Flex came in afterwards.
That was my party.
That was your party. That was Goldie's party.
That was my party.
And so Flex came in and kind of took over. She's like, all right, but still left me opening. And I was like, okay, happy to be here, happy to be in the spot. It was very much the spot. And this was weird because then also Cypher came in, but Cypher was playing downstairs, and he was Flex's right-hand man. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get the switcheroo or I'm going to get the boot. But for whatever reason, Flex kept me there. And
did you understand what was going on when he kind of took over? Or were you kind of feeling some type of way?
I wasn't feeling any type of way. I was still happy to be there. I was happy that I didn't get the opening slot snatched from me.
So you're just happy to keep working?
Yeah. He came in, I mean, as he's periodically done over a period of time, having been on the radio straight through, he was not especially heavy in the clubs at that exact moment. And kind of went, and this was the hottest party there could be, and it was 2 blocks from Hot 97, and he, to my understanding, tell me if you understand different, went to the promoters, which was AJ, 106
Adam.
in Park, and Adam. And
that's their 106 in Park party,
Yeah. And and basically was like, yo, I'm coming and playing every week.
Yeah.
And essentially was like, give me whatever you're gonna give me. I'm doing this every week. And it was really to put a foot back in the club scene downtown.
Okay.
He was doing other stuff, and he was always Funkmaster Flex, and he was huge, but at this particular moment, he didn't have a home base. Tunnel had gone away and wanted his home base, and it was super convenient. It was a Wednesday night, 2 blocks from the station. He finished at midnight, come straight over there, play, and it was like,
so this is like 2001 because I was already there at Envy doing a Wednesday.
Right.
And basically when he kind of did a guest couple of joints just to kind of get the temperature or whatever.
Right.
We played together, whatever. And then when it started to become like a share type of thing, I was like, I'm good. I'm going to head over to Cheetah. And I started Cheetah. So he took over that spot from me leaving.
Yeah.
But in the between time, that's when Max was over there.
Right, and so I had kind of been there, and he just, and
then what was the time frame when the tunnel closed?
99. It was straggled on to a little bit past 2000.
Right.
But it was like after 99, it was pretty much.
It was on its way out. But I think technically, like he said, 2000. And so on the Wednesday. So then, again, I was like, all right, this, they'd be like, Flex would get there, or his guys would get there with the records and be like, yo, he's on his way over. He said, hit the reggae set. Every time we knew it. You didn't have to tell me. He's like, oh, I see Flex's guys. Okay, great. I go to the reggae set. And if he wanted to like air it out some more, it'd be like, okay, we're going on 30 minutes now. So I was like, I got to make this make this work. So I loved reggae. I always put a lot of effort into it. But then I started bringing DJ Noriega, who's currently does the reggae show on Power 105. Brooklyn guy. He was a part of Afrique Sound, which is one of the like legendary OG Brooklyn sound systems. And so I knew Nori and started bringing Nori with me and had Nori on the mic. So then we were doing that reggae set, like
actual
different,
like in the dance hall,
right,
all the way. And I would do other nights where different things and have people rock on the mic with me like that. But that was the first time.
But now it's like a real Brooklyn thing that's in like Manhattan kind of shit.
That was the first time I brought that there, and it was really, if not the first, early on. Like a lot of those guys weren't in Manhattan clubs
at all. See, the thing is with playing in Manhattan, and if you're in the industry, most people work with each other, so the reggae was never really a thing for like on the industry level. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. Yeah. On the industry side, on the people side, for sure.
Definitely for sure. But being that we was hitting like where people from the industry was going to the clubs as well, you work with these people, so you're not really going to be thinking about reggae and dancing with them for that much, for that much. But the regular people that would come to the clubs to get that authentic reggae set was important. It was really important.
Yeah, because there was only a handful of records that crossed over that would make it to Hot 97, where or hip hop heads would even be like aware of the shit, and it was all the same fucking records, right?
Right, and that was why everyone, like I said, we sold people that set 1,000,000 times. I was like, all right, here's the 12 records.
It's like Big Up, it's like Action,
Heads High, everyone falls in love. Big Up, Action,
the Bam,
Beanie Man, Who Am I, Murder She Wrote.
Right. But Envy, you had a little bit more room to really open up and start getting them like the bookshelf rhythm. You can run through the buzz, you can run through this, and that was a good time because everybody was kind of like. It was Elephant Man. It was energy.
It was Elephant Man, Sean Paul.
Yeah, man.
And then having Nori in there.
Well, it was right before the Sean Paul fucking wave and the dancehall wave that just took over, right? With Elephant Man.
Yeah, because that was probably through like that Envy era was probably Buzz Rhythm, Give Me the Light.
Totally.
I remember playing that in there. Like all of that. Like
Underwater.
Like 2000, 99,
That's
2000,
when you could play
2001.
TOK Chichiman.
Yeah, totally.
You definitely. You played everywhere, every night. That was a part of like people who had no idea about the words or whatever. Like that.
I didn't even know till like mid 2010s when someone was like, "We don't play that shit no more."
Yeah, no, that was in that set.
That was the biggest like dancehall record, where like even if I was in like the most upscale whitest lounge, I could play TOK Chichiman and they would be singing that shit.
No, it's crazy because it says a crazy thing about music is melody over everything. And that's like one of the things that I always loved about dancehall is the melodic element of the lyrical delivery. This will go back to KRS and BDP, and like when he would do that, you would have this melodic delivery that I very much connected with, that wasn't there in a lot of other.
It was great
in a lot of other rap.
Hey, yo, what's good? This is the R.O.A.D podcast, Reflections of a DJ. We're here in New York City, and we have invaded the Sound Collective. Now, I want to explain what the Sound Collective is. I got my man Lefty from the Sound Collective here. Lefty, thank you for having us and hosting this beautiful studio for us. Exactly what is the Sound Collective here in New York?
Modern, state-of-the-art facility with tons of production gear. And one side of it is you can be a member and you can come here and pay monthly to use the rooms and the gear and sign out time and our space. We have a state-of-the-art studio. We have all these production stations, DJ stations, instrument practicing rooms and such like that.
And you also like teach. You have like classes and sessions, right?
We have intensive programs, short-term programs that people can come and take Saturday classes on DJing, production.
There's like kind of a community building within where there's like DJs, producers, musicians.
Up and coming producers, people honing their craft and learning, and DJs and all these things. And they come here and practice, and we have all the new gear, so they come and check that out and get familiar. And a lot of DJs will come in from out of town being like, let me get a day pass so I can just get a refresh on the 3000s and the V10.
And what's great is that a lot of our guests, everyone from like Clark Kent to the technician to like Camilo, they come in here and they're just like, holy shit.
You want to play with all the gear, man? Yeah.
I didn't even even realize this, but you guys have like studio spaces where people can do live streams and they can do their Twitch streams.
Yep. We got a whole green screen set up already, multicam, full on switcher. Like we also do a lot of events here. We're bringing a lot of outside talent, organizations. We got a big event coming up with DJ City, Beat Source, and Serato.
That's part of our family.
Yeah. We did a big one last year with them. We got another one coming up.
For our listeners, is there any way we could hook them up with a deal, or, you know, like if they put in a R.O.A.D podcast code?
Yeah, tell me about it. What else do you have envisioned for this deal? It sounds like we're well on our way. Why don't you tell them?
You're working with us where they can type in a code for like R.O.A.D.
Yep.
And they'll get a month free, right?
Yeah, on our online platform. We have a whole online platform with like masterclass style education.
Nice.
Different categories and everything, instruments, drums. And then we have these things that we're launching right now called Pro Paths. So you can choose, like if you're a producer, you can take the Ableton Pro Path, the Logic Pro Path, Serato Studio. Goes through a wide variety of knowledge besides just stuff in that skill set and discipline.
So our R.O.A.D listeners, if you're in New York, you can check out their facility. You can do a day pass, a week pass, a monthly pass. You can check out their site. You have access to all the education online.
Soundcollective.com. We also have a YouTube channel that has some of our content from the educational courses, and all of our events are live streamed and put up there.
I hope we can come back here and use your facilities again.
Looking forward to it.
Shout out to Lefty and the Sound Collective. Thank you so much. KRS is doing like a dance hall, like melodic, and then doing like Billy Joel. It was just insane, right?
Right, singing part-time lover, like, and you're like, this is crazy, but doing that is like that's a dance hall and a reggae and a Jamaican thing of like doing the covers, and like the early dance hall DJs in Jamaica of like just like you got the mic, like
make it familiar.
In order to hold on to it, you needed to get that forward. So it was like, all right, how can I make it familiar? I need punchlines. How can I make it more familiar? These like earworm recognizable things, and that always stuck with me. But again, like like every huge crossover dancehall record is like everyone falls in love, and it's like similar to pop music in a way that simple melody also always wins. Like what do little kids remember? And we learn Schoolhouse Rock and we learn all of this stuff,
ABCs and shit like that.
ABCs and like as a kid you learn so much of the first things that you learn through simple melody because it gets stuck in your brain. Like it's
in that TOK record, I mean, the melody is insane.
Just gotta have someone use the melody.
They need to redo that.
But funny thing, I don't even remember what it is, but I know that melody is also from something else.
Yeah.
I mean, all those Elephant Man records are like, a lot of them are like kid songs, like nursery rhyme songs.
Well, theme songs and shit like that.
Yeah, where the melodies come from. And then you get this like totally flipped on its end, and it's so different. And even if you don't recognize it, there's just a familiarity to it that
sticks with you.
That sticks with you.
Yeah. That's so interesting, like to hear about Flex though coming in, like with Club Envy right after the tunnel. There was probably a good year or so where he wasn't doing any clubs.
Well, he was doing clubs. He was doing the car series stuff where he was like traveling with the big Jeep stuff. What he was doing,
right. He was doing like car shows
to different places because after the tunnel was like, okay, they're not gonna bring the tunnel back. All right, well, let's take this show on the road. So he started going on the road. He started doing that.
And that was kind of why then it came back around to like, okay, let me put a foot in the clubs in New York.
Yeah, because it was like a year where it wasn't, and pretty much not to be, but I kind of like was out there.
He was killing shit. So, I mean, more likely he was hearing about, Goldfinger killing shit at Envy, and then like Envy being the Wednesday being the new hot shit.
But everybody was looking for that new spot, you know what I mean? Or where the culture was, because it was like, and I guess we'll get to this part now, because at that point when 2001, he wasn't in the club. It was no real representation from him in the club. That's why when the Jay-Z and the Nas and the stuff happened, it was like
that was us.
Because he wasn't in the clubs playing it. So the build up, those disc records, and when they started coming one after the other, he had no real representation. He was on the radio
in the club.
He was
on the radio.
He was on the radio. Yeah.
Wait, can you explain it to motherfuckers who are not from New York? What you mean that was us? With the Jay-Z and Nas shit.
Well, the light and the skinny of it is that the main clubs that were in New York at that time were like Envy, Cheetah, BB Kings for
and this is like the second kind of wave, like like probably post 9/11 or like around.
This is around
9/11, a little before 9/11,
right?
But it's like post
but it's definitely
tunnel.
after
The
90,
tunnel.
after the tunnel.
Yeah,
definitely
K-
after the
this
tunnel.
after. Yeah, this is like before tunnel and after tunnel. After
Right.
tunnel and chaos. Chaos goes in there.
Club New York. Club New York was like end of 99,
Right,
you know,
right,
that
right,
type
right.
of thing. So what happened was, yeah, he was on the radio, but he was also traveling. He was doing the mixtape. He was doing the big truck series, and he was going around to all these different places. So it was a void because there wasn't the Sunday tunnel. That was his spot. So people were looking for the next, where are we going to go? And this was on a different day, so it really didn't affect what he was doing because that was on a Sunday. But it was on a Wednesday, so it was like it was a lot of people in that spot. Hold a bunch of people. But if you're not being represented, then you don't really have a say in the club, you know?
And it was interesting because then also, so this is also when and kind of how Speed Sunday nights came to be because C started doing Sundays at, I believe, and this was before I was involved, but I believe he started doing Sundays at Speed on like big holiday weekends. And this was in towards the end of the tunnel run, because what would happen is on a holiday weekend, the tunnel would be completely packed. There'd be a couple thousand people outside, and C would do the holiday weekend Sunday at Speed and pack that up with basically overflow from the tunnel. And then that was up and running as Goldfinger pointed out, tunnel kind of then faded and went away. And
so Cypher Sounds was kind of holding down the Sundays at Speed.
No.
Oh no, you're talking about Mr. C.
Mr. C. I'm sorry. Yeah. No. That was Mr. C. So
Mr. C.
So the first any kind of hip hop parties at Speed were Derek. It was Black Diamonds. It was after work Thursdays.
Black Diamond.
It was Black Diamonds. It was
Derek Corley.
Derek Corley. It was after work Thursdays, and
people gotta know a little bit. Like Derek Corley and Black Diamond were like basically the biggest like black party promotion company,
and like and Tammy Ford and Slim
Tammy Ford
and that
in
whole crew.
Manhattan, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, like,
because these nightclubs would have like a hip hop night, or like on a Sunday, or a black night on like a off like outside of the weekend,
right?
And then Black Diamond would like instantly come in and take over.
But also, this also happened in Goldfinger. You can describe this better, but like there was like, this is in the time as things are just about to become bottle service, and the sort of dynamic of clubbing, tunnel goes away, and it's like, okay, we, things that are a little smaller, not small, not full bottle service yet, but like a VIP section and this and that. And it was like, Black Diamonds was going for a bit of, and I think what they would have considered upscale.
Right.
Was the thing.
This is like the Jiggy era. So this is like, this is where the labels are starting to roll out with a little bit more money. Mm-hmm. The artists are starting to demand a little bit more money. So now it's starting to upscale a little bit as far as with the presentation of what was going on in.
Not just giving you, here's a big room, pay me $50, take your Timbs off and come in.
Yeah.
Like to feel a little like
you didn't
like take your shoes off like going into a Black Diamonds
party. Like you had
party.
to earn to kind of get in there a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you might not. It was if you just rolled up.
Exactly.
Yo, we got money. You might not get in.
Right. And more than likely you weren't going to get in if you had that mind state. It was more acquired.
Right.
More
like you said, this is post tunnel, right?
Yeah.
This is like
it was more exclusive. We hadn't yet moved into the like fully exclusive phase, and the Black Diamonds team was very big, and sort of like you knew one of them. Like if you were someone who was going there, it was like, oh, it's my girlfriend's birthday party. Oh, I know someone, and then you kind of had to know a bit about what you were doing, or you roll up, everyone's dressed, women have heels on, and show up and pay your $40 at the door. Maybe it was $60 when you got to the door, and it wasn't, it wasn't moderately priced either.
And then you get the same type of celebrities, but a different grade of celebrity that would come out. It wasn't like you were paying for them. There was just like a feature. Like you just come here to hang out.
Right. It wasn't like, hosted by so and so. It's just like, no, this is where now these guys are like, because look, like if you were going to the tunnel and Speed, or Speed as an artist, like you had your squad with you, and it wasn't to show off. It was because that was how you needed to roll, and these parties were not like that. You'd have your crew.
Because anything could pop off at Speed and the Tunnel.
It was absolutely wild, like without question. And not to say that there was never a fight or wildness at a Cody can attest to this at a Black Diamonds or Black Diamonds affiliated thing, but that wasn't the energy.
But it was almost like early Black Hollywood in New York.
Yeah,
like
I would say
that's what Black Diamond brought.
I would say that. I would say
it was a bit of
just a more refined type of crowd.
But you also saw it with like the music too. Like you saw like with Change Clothes, you saw Jay with like button ups.
It got slicker.
Like
it got slicker.
Like the jersey started like going out. Like,
this was absolutely collar shirts.
Yeah, collar shirts and blazers. Like everyone was rocking oversized blazers and shit.
Collar shirts, 100%. All of a sudden, everybody's got like a polo, like a gentleman's polo, not a cool polo, like button up, unbuttoned at the top, big collars, and like and doing that. So that was like, that was that shift, and sort of like Speed took over for the kind of filled the void of the tunnel. And was its own thing, because the tunnel had been that for so long that so Speed came into existence, and then all these other things had existed and sort of more started taking over the whole landscape, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then there was chaos, and then we can get to the point where it's like at that moment, the 2001, there's all this brewing tension.
Explain. What do you?
It's like, it's almost like a fight for the crown around about this time. These are like the first couple of shots that are back and forth from Nas and Memphis and Jay-Z and this person and that person. So everybody's kind of like, you got Jadakiss saying little stuff. Everybody's kind of going at it subliminally.
Interesting.
And it starts to all boil. Then after around about the summer of 2001 is when it kind of like Summer Jam. Nas takes his shot from Jay-Z with the Prodigy stuff, the takeover. And it gets to the point where, we have 9/11. And then it's kind of like Jay-Z puts out the album on 9/11 and everybody's in the crib.
We're here to take over, right?
We're here to take over. And you're not outside though,
right?
Because it's 9/11. So none of the clubs are open. None of the clubs are really rocking. Then October comes, maybe the closer to October, November, New York starts to get back into the spirit of we got to go back to work. We got to go back to work. The clubs open. And then there's one night at his spot, Chaos, which is in December. This is in December, on my birthday, actually.
And this and this is a Black Diamond. I mean, we're tying it all together. This is a Black Diamonds
This is a Black Diamonds event. This is a Tammy Ford event. This is the night in December 16, 2001.
Oh my God.
Where it's captured. And this is the only place that has ever been captured. The live response of Ether, Takeover, Got Yourself a Gun.
Super ugly.
Super ugly.
Wait. I'm getting goosebumps. This is why I love this podcast. This is the stories that I want to hear so badly.
This is comparative to when they say, "Oh, were you there for the Busy Bee battle against Kumo D?" And somebody has that on tape.
Right.
This is the only document of what a crowd sounded like in New York at that time.
Wow. During
that battle, there's no other club that really encompassed that but Chaos.
At your birthday.
My birthday with Max GLAZER playing.
And you have the DAT?
And they had a DAT machine, and I happened to record that night. And Frank Jugger was on the mic, because Frank was on the mic with me.
Rest in peace, Frank. Yeah.
Every Sunday. Before we even get into the real part of this story, I'll also just throw in a little aside fun fact, which is Melissa Ford was
bartender,
waitress was the waitress in the VIP.
Bottle girl, actually.
She had just popped up on the scene, not in videos.
Love
none
you,
of that.
Melissa.
Just a she was like, oh man, everyone was like, wow, she was like magnetic, you know, like a radiant person. Everyone was like, wow. And she was the waitress in the VIP doing the bottle service. And like I said, this era sort of is like early bottle service. The clubs aren't entirely bottle service. And they had a DAT machine there. I happened to pop into DAT that night. Frank was on the mic. I'm rocking. It's this really kind of one-of-a-kind moment of when all of these songs, and like you said, people hadn't really been together. And look, at that point, so much of music was the shared experience. That's one of the things that's one of the things that I lament the loss of a lot now, because the only way you could get that was you had to be in that room together at the same time, because you get it on the radio, you get the clean version, but you're not getting it. You're not getting the energy of all of the other people in the room and people losing their minds. So like that collective energy, it's Goldfinger's birthday. Frank is on the mic.
Max is on the wheels.
I'm playing.
December 16th. So Nas's album comes out December 4th on Jay-Z's birthday. So this record, Ether, has only been out for 2 weeks. Got Yourself a Gun is, the single, whatever the case may be, whatever. Right. But then you have Super Ugly. So he's already responded to Ether. Yeah. And this is all captured on tape.
And you dropped song for song for song in order?
Yeah, twice. 2 different times.
I think it was more than... it was...
And over.
Can you explain?
And over. Again.
Just think about being in a club, and I'm not sure if anybody can really actually, to tell you the truth, I don't think that any other time has been experienced, because Max, and it comes on so fucking strong, like, oh, first off, it ain't too many DJs that's gonna play Ether, and especially in New York, because that was pretty much Jay-Z's town at that point. Max plays fucking Ether and gets the response. Ooh.
And you were teasing it.
Yo, we're gonna have to link it.
I need to link it. I want to hear the play for play. What were you playing, and when did you decide I got to do this now?
I don't, to be honest, a lot of those details are going to be foggy to me, and we'll link to it so people can go and listen to the actual document. But it was one of those of look, one, I was like, okay, I got the Nas album, like, cool, okay, I got the next one, I got this, I got that. Definitely had to go, like, Super Ugly was a bootleg only. Flexa played it on the radio, and it was like a bootleg only. So I had to you had to do these runs and make sure you had all the records. Yeah, but it was just like that was that place. Like
So did you play Takeover first?
I played them in order. Like Goldfinger can probably.
See what happens is
I want to hear the play by play.
He was experiencing it as his birthday.
He comes out.
Wait, Goldie, you were wilding the fuck out, right?
I was wilding out because it was like I was already hyped. It was my birthday. Fuck that. But what happened was he comes out of reggae. He comes out of Chichiman, I think.
No, but that, okay. But so to pause it. But so this is why. So even though, to me, the reggae sets were super important, and I think there's 2 reggae sets on that recording.
It is.
Even though the reggae sets are super important, I know that I can do like a blazing reggae set, finish with my biggest reggae record, and then not because I've leveled out the energy, because I'm going to turn such a fast, hard corner into where you're going now.
So what happens is he breaks down the Chichiman record, the shit, he does like the So Frank gets on the mic, yo, what up? Da, 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 da. Yo, Brooklyn in the house, Queens in the house, blah, 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 blah. So he's amping this shit up.
So Frank knows what you're about to do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So then ask Nas, they don't want it with Hov. What? Right coming out of that? So it's pandemonium at that point. Pandemonium.
Wow, you started it from there?
Yeah. Like I said, so it was like he was experiencing it on birthday night while out, and so like living it and doing it, I don't have as clear. Like I could give you all of like the feelings and the essence of it, but in terms of the play-by-play, we'll go to the tape. But also,
you gotta put the link. You gotta put the link.
He has a much.
Well, can we play some of it?
Yeah, no doubt.
For this episode,
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Did you bring it back to the come on, or you just let it play from there?
No. It was a moment because in between that, the crowd is fucking going ape shit. So they're like, oh, and he stops saying, Brooklyn, y'all ain't ready. Queens, who's in the house? Who run this shit? Oh, Queens, wow. Brooklyn, Queens, Brooklyn. So it's pandemonium, and you got to remember that nobody has heard these records in the club. It was 9/11,
right?
These records just came out.
Yeah, everybody's listening to them on the radio. And again, to the thing that I said of like, now you've got the room full of people. The room
now
full of people.
Let's see what people really think now. I mean, we throwing that shit out there, and everybody's in the spot going ape shit.
And then so what happens? I want to hear.
It's on tape. It's on tape.
Fuck.
It's on tape. And that's the only document of what it sounded like in New York when that battle went on. That's the only documented, recorded, visualized type of thing.
Right, so from both of y'all perspectives, when was the crowd the most craziest for which song?
I really couldn't say for what song. It was just the whole moment.
The whole moment in itself.
The whole thing was pandemonium.
It was pandemonium.
Like to me, as a personal thing, like the record of all those records was Takeover for me. I just loved like that to hit my sweet spot of sound, the way it sounded when it came on in the club, and just was like
very aggressive. Very aggressive.
Yeah, the same. Like it gave me like You Don't Know, like those type of records, like when you hit them in the club and it just goes, like the club just gets different. But all of them sounded incredible, and it was like, we were definitely up there like, oh shit, and like you could feel, so it was like an old kind of very tiny theater place. So the DJ booth was up on a balcony, the VIP was on one side of the balcony, and then the balcony wrapped around. So it was actually like, it was a narrow balcony where the DJ was, wide balcony on the side with the VIP, and then there was a bar balcony facing opposite the DJ.
Mm-hmm. Then downstairs you could oversee everything.
And then downstairs, and there was all
but
you could feel the balcony like moving. It was like one of those when you see those concert stadium videos and you're like, oh shit, I can actually see the floor.
So crazy.
I think the most amazing thing about that was just the reaction of them hearing those songs in the club. And the tension that was in the air was like,
wow.
It was the first time niggas have really heard Ether in the club. And it's like, oh shit, like this is happening now. It's happening now.
Because the other thing that was interesting was like, as the way we described like this party and that sort of Black Diamonds world was, it's like a little elevated, it's a little fancier. It's like, but musically, it was the
raw.
It was music. It was like, and this is how we all. Is how we rocked
and that's how we approached.
And it not just that night, but it was like, okay, you guys might have to dress up a little, get here, and you're paying a little more, and it's not like Tim's and whatever. But musically, and this is why, like all of those things worked. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that equivalent version of the music,
right?
Because that would have been soft and sucked. Right. That would have been shitty.
Right.
It was still Ether and Takeover, fucking destroying the place, and it wasn't just like, okay, now this is like an elevated thing. Now we're popping bottles. We're on some R&B, type shit. Mm-hmm. It was still musically all as rough as you could get.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And you did this twice?
During the night, it was like kind of like he did it, and then we went somewhere else, and then he came back to it. And it was like,
yeah. No, we definitely look and look. I came up. I was raised right as a DJ by great DJs, so I am generally someone who has a philosophy of no playbacks. We're not repeating these joints.
Yeah.
And throughout the years, there would be a few exceptions. You'd be like, something so big.
Right.
You hit it for like that prime time moment, but then you're like, all right, I can hit it again. And like, look, you can make exceptions to the rule.
It was a moment in time, though.
We're not guys that are playing 3 or 4 times. No, but we went and did the whole thing again. And it also was like, this was crazy because, mind you, this is on a CD, so it's no longer than an 80-minute set, and it appears twice on the CD. So it's like, it's probably like twice within 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we just did it, and it was so much, and then went into some other shit that I don't even remember what it was, and was like, fuck it, let's do it again. Because
it was so much of a moment, man. It was a moment, man.
We knew the energy was still gonna be there, and like for me, all I want is to see people wilding out and having a good time. So in whatever, and I was like, yo, I was like, they've got more to give me. Let's do it. I'm not gonna not get this next round of forwards by not doing this again. I just did the whole thing.
It's like, there's a fine line. And if you have to be like, it's really genius and gutsy to be like, I'm going to double down.
But that was an encore.
You know?
That was,
it was totally, an encore, exactly.
It was totally deserved of an encore. So you had to revisit it. You had to.
It's so
you had to.
Okay, but we haven't even gotten to what also ultimately lives on in infamy as the reason, like for me, everything we talked about is amazing, but for me, the reason that night is legendary, classic, historic, and was recorded and written as such is it's Goldfinger's birthday, and throughout the entire night and the entire recording, the thing that you hear most out of Frank Jugga's mouth more than anything, happy birthday, Goldie, it's your birthday. And look, I can't do it justice in any way, but in Frank's incredible, unique tone and style, happy birthday, Goldie, we partying. But it's like throughout, like that, honestly, more than anything that we just talked about, however many years later, 20-something years later, that's the thing that sticks out to me the most is that night was Goldfinger's birthday. Because to be totally honest with you, I know that I have recorded and have posted the Nas Jay-Z back and forth set. As we were talking about this before the show, and even as we start talking about it, I didn't even remember that was a part of that same night. Because to me, that night is Happy Birthday Goldie. And to throw in another left field tidbit about this, you know Paul Savani, right?
Yes, totally.
You know who Paul Savani is?
Chloe Savani's brother.
Yeah.
Chloe's brother.
Casablanca.
Paul's also opened a bunch of his own venues, downtown nightlife impresario. And so through various worlds, Paul, as a guy who was not at this night, and I ended up working with Paul and known him over the years, and you know, I always had whatever CD was the latest I had in my bag, and probably when I was at Spa one night and he was involved there, handed him a copy of this CD, and some months later got a call from Paul, and he was just like, yo, this is the most incredible thing I've ever heard. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks, yeah, oh, thanks. He was like, no, this is incredible. Like, I'm not fucking with you. I'm not like, this isn't hyperbole. Like, he lost his mind when he heard it, and he starts over the phone to me, happy birthday, Goldie.
That's dope.
Oh my God.
Like that. And so like, and I don't see or talk to Paul all the time, but like, you know, 10 years later, he'll call me and be like, yo, happy birthday, Goldie. Yo, I'm doing this thing. Can you come DJ? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, I've never forgotten that CD. Never forget it.
So like I said before, and just not to be romanticized or whatever like that.
Romanticizing it.
The fact of the matter is, this is the only document of that battle.
Insane.
So you know how iconic the South Bronx, up the bridge, South Bronx,
right.
Red Alert. You know, that's iconic moment. This is that level of iconic, not just because I was there or whatever, but this is the only document where it's recorded of what the crowd would sound like when that happened.
That's so funny because
you don't have this on. Can I find it?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Because now I can think of it that way, but you've totally changed my perspective.
But that's what it is.
This night. It's SoundCloud.com/MaxGlazer. I have the Federation page, which is at Federation Sound. The Max GLAZER one is where I've also got some cool like things from like '93 of I have it right here. Lower East Side bars. You have it
because what will make me more happy than ever is to play some of it in real time.
Yeah,
and have you guys react to it? Wait, hold on.
Color commentary.
Oh my god.
We have to get this on tape. Because when are we gonna have you guys together listening to this shit over again?
Yo, fam, nuts, bro.
Yeah, no, bro. This is no. You're making me realize how important this night is, and I always thought of it as like it was like a personal, very important thing of mine for me and you. And this weird Paul Savani connection, but the context that you put it in of like. No, like this is some
to tell you the absolute truth.
Shit.
To tell you the absolute truth, I've never heard Ether in the club after that night.
Really?
Like who's gonna play it? Like you know what I mean? And where are they gonna play it at?
No, it was So look, it was definitely like without being self-congratulatory. And look, at the time, I would say a kid and was not probably thinking. Well, I definitely was not thinking about it in these terms, but like. New York clubs were Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Brooklyn ran, and I would say still runs, New York clubs. And this downtown era of clubs, like, it was Brooklyn. Brooklyn was home. Foxy was in there every other week. Her brother Gavin, Pretty Boy, the other brother Anton, Zab Judah, like the list goes on. Like Brooklyn was represented.
Zab Judah being out every night. That's
every
an
night.
That's an error. That's
every
an error
night.
in New York.
Yeah.
So that's like 20 minutes in. It's like about 20 minutes in. Keep going. It's after reggae. Okay. So it's about 20 minutes in.
I love this caption, the description for this SoundCloud. Max is like, I used to play hip hop.
Oh shit.
The party was called the Candy Store, and this was the infamous Happy Birthday Goldie night.
That's what I mean. I literally don't even have it up on the thing as like, oh no, this is the Ethan.
I'm hearing this for the first time.
Shout out to Paul Savani, who was not there, but to this day still yells Happy Birthday Goldie.
See, I told you the vibes of it. I've captured exactly. That's exactly how I remember it.
Yeah, that's nuts. Keep going.
We do this each and every Sunday in the Candy Store. DJ Max GLAZER, Frank Jugger. We doing this for DJ Goldfinger. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Goldie. Max, do that shit on one time.
Oh, X9, she don't want it with hoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We running this rap shit.
Yeah.
Be single.
We running this rap shit.
M-Easy, we running this
rap shit.
Zipped up in plastic when it happens, that's it. Oh, it's Sparks, we running this rap shit.
Listen to the crowd in the background.
We running this rap shit.
It's coming.
We running this rap shit.
We run New York.
What you say? Ooh. Uh-huh. Queens, make some fucking noise out there.
I have chills.
Yeah. Queens, you better make some fucking noise. Nas doing this fucking thing.
Fuck with your soul like ether.
Yeah.
You know you across the belly. I prove you lost already. Brace yourself for the main event. Y'all impatiently waiting. It's like an AIDS test. What's the results? Not pop. I'm.
What's the results?
Yeah. Yeah. Is Brooklyn in the house? Brooklyn, make some fucking noise right now.
You hear that crowd?
Is this Queens house? Queens, make some noise right now.
To the
Brooklyn, Queens.
Oh my
Brooklyn,
God. Oh my God.
Queens. Brooklyn, make some fucking noise. Yeah.
Yeah, I got myself a gun.
Yeah.
I got myself a gun. Brooklyn, stand up.
Yeah.
I got myself
Brooklyn,
a gun.
make noise.
Need the heat.
Brooklyn, make noise.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Y'all ain't fucking ready. Y'all ain't fucking ready. Brooklyn, make some goddamn noise out there. Shit. It's the DJ Mad GLAZER, MC Frank Jugger. Huh.
Ooh, the timing.
Yeah, I got myself a gun.
My God.
Yeah,
Bruh.
I got myself a gun. Brooklyn, stand up. I got myself a gun, but really I don't need the heat. Your heart pump project Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Brooklyn, make noise. Brooklyn, make noise. What up, Cap?
Yeah, I got myself a gun.
You can hear the people over the music through the microphone.
It's crazy. You can hear them while the music's playing.
Full.
Yeah.
I got myself a gun, but really I don't need the heat. Your heart pump project Kool-Aid. I don't got it.
Y'all know this shit.
This is not
But it just came out. It just came out. This is the 16th. Nas comes out the 4th. That Got Yourself a Gun may have came out the 11th or something like that.
Wow.
And this is days. That's how. This is the only thing that captured it.
Crazy.
Days after.
I didn't even realize it. It didn't fathom to me that you were even quick mixing this shit like that. Like you're just playing a little bit of it. That's insane.
Nah, I needed that crowd response.
Wow. I want to just hear when you.
When we started again.
Yeah, I just want to hear this part.
Frank Jugger, DJ Mad.
There you go.
Yeah, y'all. We do this each and every Sunday in the candy store. DJ Mad GLAZER, Frank Jugger. We doing this for DJ Goldfinger. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Goldie. Yo, Max, throw that shit on one time.
Oh, action Nas, he don't want it with hoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We running this rap.
And you hear Frank get hype?
M-Easy, we running this
Rap shit.
Man.
I just want to hear the no. Wow.
We running this rap shit. Freeway, we running this rap shit. Chris and Neat, we running this rap shit.
We run New York.
What you say? Oof. Queens, make some fucking noise out there.
Oh my God.
Max.
Jay-Z.
Yeah.
There was no brawling. There was nothing.
No, man, it was just
Queens,
so
Brooklyn.
I think to actually be honest, it was surprise. It was like, oh shit, is this happening? Like it's happening now.
Yeah.
Because I personally wouldn't play Ether in the club. Me.
I don't know why I felt like I could. I like I said, it was
that's
like
the magic of
youthful ignorance.
And
like,
that's the magic right there.
I clear, like I said, I don't have a super clear memory of like what led up to that, but like I clearly planned it because I had the set tight and ready to go. It's like where I was going to do my drops.
Right.
And again, that goes to that thing where we talked about stretch of like that punchline mixing. And so I was like, look, I had Frank on the mic there, but I was like, yeah, like how do you get more? Drop it, boom, onto the next. And do it, and do it at the drops. Whereas, like, and again, that was just like a style that I learned from
that
other
shit was
people.
tight. It was like Max, pen, code. It was right there.
And Frank and I have been rocking together for years. At that point, we've been doing that party together for a couple of years. So and that's one of those things that's like
it's just magic. It just came together. All the pieces came together at the right time.
Frank is so good too. Like, first of all, it's so good to hear Frank's voice again.
Always,
totally.
But Frank's so good. He sees you changing the record, and he's reading the record, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna go there," and he knows as soon as there's an opportunity, he's gonna go to Queens and do the whole thing.
Right, and I'm watching him, and he's watching me, so he knows when it's ready to go.
It's
so
a
you
beautiful
don't have
dance,
that, like,
right? Yeah,
you don't have that like, yo, hit it, but you're not ready, and then you're waiting just like.
And he knows when you're ready because you're going to be holding it.
You can see, because you can see. You're all, okay, record's on, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
And then we do it again later in the mix.
wait, later?
Find it again later.
Wait,
I'm pretty sure the response is also
it's
crazy.
up there. It's up there.
What's that? That's like halfway through?
Okay, wait.
That's the second time.
So you do play the whole thing?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Okay, right. I think it's after You Don't Know. I wasn't going to not play the whole things. That's why it worked twice.
Yeah, because you teased it.
Because he teased it.
You teased it.
But that's the response when that song came on.
Wow.
That story.
This was a big one, too. Love Foxy Records at the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all.
Brooklyn.
Let's go.
I mean, Foxy got hands down one of the biggest dancehall records of all time. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We got to get into that.
Yeah.
BK.
This is where we're going back to it, right?
Check it.
I got 7 Mac 11s, about 8 38s, 9 10 Mac 10s. The shit's never in. You can't touch my riches, even if you had MC Hammer and the
357 bitches.
Beautiful.
Is this Brooklyn's house? Make some goddamn noise.
This is gonna be the whole episode, just us listening to this fucking.
Hey, yo, bro, live reaction shots.
I can retire after this, man. I'm good.
Happy birthday, Goldie.
This is now a reaction podcast.
That's my new intro for you from now on. Whenever we do the podcast.
Oh, you have to.
That's great.
What? Woo, let's go. Come on.
So it's pandemonium. So
Then we're going to drop right here, right?
What
the
you say,
Antioch.
people? Oh, man.
I smacked that. Probably smacked that.
Right, yeah.
Big up to all my people from Brownsville.
So
Happy
good.
birthday, Goldfinger. What? Nigga?
Hold that. Hold that.
Max is on fire.
Magical night, bro.
Wow. Goldie, you was wilding out.
Dope. By this time, I was already done. I was done. Once that.
Wait, where was your table? At the balcony?
I was on the balcony. I was on the balcony.
Oh, okay, wait.
I lost my pager that night. Found it. It was nuts that night.
This is round 2.
This is round 2.
Do what I do.
There you go.
Brooklyn, we running this rap shit. Brooklyn, we running this rap shit.
Freeway, we run this rap
Shit.
Oh, Spark, we running this rap shit. Chris and Neat, we
So this is when he plays the records out.
Yeah.
Because there's all these punchlines to singing this.
MC, me. Hey,
Damn.
soldier, you ain't ready for war. R.O.A.D too strong for y'all. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight, pin to a test, chest in a line of fire with your thin ass vest.
All right, we got to get to the Sean Paul stuff. We got to get to we got to move.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
History. Yeah, that's history.
Yeah.
I did. I used to play hip hop.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You guys proved it. You proved it.
It's amazing. What a moment. What a moment.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So that's my point, that the fact that it was captured and that was the actual battle. And that's the only place where you're going to hear it.
Oh, man. That's fucking crazy. You guys have this memory together. You've never brought this up ever. You've never even...
I bring it up all the time.
Not to me, you haven't brought it up.
I also bring it up all the time.
Really?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh, my God.
No, Happy Birthday Goldie is one of my top. It's definitely a top 10 story. But like I said, it's a Happy Birthday Goldie Paul Savini story.
So when the anniversary comes around, when I guess the anniversary of those records coming out, like the 20th anniversary had passed a little while ago, and I posted on my Instagram.
Coming
25, right? I posted it, so it was like, you guys got to remember, like, this is one of those moments, like, you're listening to it, yeah, that's cool, but this is the actual moment when New York spoke about what was going on with this battle.
So it's interesting. So look, and I don't really get into these conversations, but regardless of what anybody says, like you heard the response to both records, and the response is there for both records.
Yeah.
That's live in a club in New York, full of people.
Weeks. This is just a couple weeks after both of them had came out. The responses that all came out, like all these records are out, just a couple of weeks, so it's fresh. And it's the only time that they really got a chance to really react to it.
Everyone must have been talking about that night.
Oh, and then when the CD came out, it was a fucking done deal.
Wow.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't
sold that shit.
Maybe,
were you selling?
Probably.
Frankie was giving those shits out like, yo, this light is fucking nuts.
But like I said, maybe I recorded that. Maybe I brought a DAT because I was like, oh, yeah, I got Ether Takeover, Jay-Z Nas War, and was like, oh, this would be cool. Here's a cool night I'd like to record. But what usually happens is, and this is the thing we were talking about, like neither of us recorded a lot, but we have some stuff recorded. Like I always felt like if I was like made it a point, brought my gear, brought a recorder, brought the DAT tapes or whatever, go through the thing, set it up, plug it in at the beginning, I always felt like it was an off night for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the pressure of like, oh, I'm recording,
I gotta capture something.
This.
Right.
It's like it's very rare for you to have recorded a set and have it be an epic set or an epic moment that night that you're like, oh, shit.
Again, like you get those if you're someone who records every night. Then you got hundreds of mediocre, okay ones, and then you have the magical ones also. But because I only recorded once in a while, I always felt like, oh, if I popped it in, it was like, they sort of go in the drawer, and then 20 years later, some of those, obviously this one aged well, but 20 years later, some of those you're like, oh no, it's dope. I'm glad I have this. Oh, that mix. Like you would listen back to it and be like, ooh, I didn't like that mix, and maybe not do something with it contemporarily at the time because I was like, oh, this didn't come out perfect.
Right.
Oh my God.
But historic, like this one, I'm pretty proud of.
My God.
And it also couldn't have happened without him. Couldn't have happened without Frank. Without the whole,
I get too much credit for being at the.
Did you run to the booth? I would have ran to the booth.
I was on the balcony. I was losing my shit. So they're in front of me.
What'd you have in your? You had a bottle of what?
No, I was just drinking whatever was handed to me at that point because it was my birthday.
What were you wearing? What were you wearing?
I remember I had a Vance on. I had a leather jacket, and I lost my sky pager because I was jumping up and down. And my sky pager fell from the balcony all the way to the dance floor, and then somebody gave it back to me because they saw the sky pager and was like, "Oh, that's Goldie's," and I got it back. So that was an amazing night. I remember it. I remember that, God. Or some of it. I definitely remember that. Yeah, it was a great night.
I love that you guys have this like connection.
Yeah, man.
This memory.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
So dope. Shit, I don't like doing these clubs, hearing these stories like this. This is like the epitome. This is like the era that I love to hear because nobody has any of this shit documented. This is like pre-camera, like Instagram, social media, pre-internet kind of, and it was just like, this is the shit that I love to hear about. Like, you know,
it's ill because this is wax. This is live.
Yeah,
this is wax. This is real shit. Like, you know, you actually hear him bringing the record back down and slowing it down and going in transition. So it's a very a pure type of party rocking that's captured. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you do have, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of people that have, you know, some documented stuff where they, you know, I guess like Brucey B or maybe me, or I have a couple of things, but I've never put too much out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So at this time, you know, you're doing probably like Naomi Campbell parties. You're doing like Puff parties.
Yes.
You're doing all of this.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think it was like? I know when you first started DJing, you were kind of trying to find your lace, and you were trying to like actually like be able to play dancehall and reggae and be known for your dancehall and reggae sets. And how do we go from that to hip hop, and then to doing these celebrity events, and then kind of like Federation Sound? You kind of you founded that in 1999, right?
It all kind of happened like in parallel. Like I wouldn't say, like I always loved reggae, but I wouldn't say like definitely first as a DJ.
Yeah.
Like I was known as a hip hop DJ, and I wasn't like, I always loved reggae, and so I was a hip hop DJ who would play more reggae than most hip hop DJs.
But you were ready to do a hip hop set, right?
Oh, always. Not now.
Wait. I kind of want to know how you linked up with Cypher Sounds.
So
because he's one of the first DJs on New York radio that was pushing dancehall and reggae and world music a lot more than a lot of the other radio DJs.
Well, so Cypher, I met Cypher at Fat Beats, I believe, with Riz. He came in with Riz. So before he was Flex's right-hand guy, he was everywhere with Riz. I think Cypher was living in Long Island at the time. Riz was like deep in Brooklyn, maybe in Long Island at that point, probably in Brooklyn still. And so he came into Fat Beats, and we kind of met through that. The connection with Riz is kind of what brought him to Flex. And
he started working at Fat Beats as well.
Yeah, we met him. We just, kind of like casually cool. But then Cypher started working at Fat Beats. And we just became, we became friends working together. And, we're washing windows and sweeping floors and, doing all kinds of fun stuff. Like at that point, I had DJ gigs, but I wasn't DJing wasn't paying all of my bills. I got a gig here, got a gig there, whatever. Cypher, we just kind of clicked. Like we were similar personalities. And he came in one day and was like, "Yo, oh man, I don't know. They just asked me if I could go on the road and DJ for Lil' Kim, but," and I was like, "Bro," pack up. I was like, "Quit this shit. Get the fuck out of here. Go on, like you absolutely have to go on the road." That was kind of like that was definitely his first, bigger move. Going on the road with Kim, and so he was with Kim and C's and all. He's got all kinds of wild, hilarious stories about that. And I started going, would roll with him and help him carry his crates, and that was how we would end up, with Cypher, me, my boy Ari, my other boy Kiko, rest in peace. And our crew, and honestly, that was what Federation started as. Our crew. So it was like Cypher was down with Flex, but then we had our whole squad. It's like, the people that were DJing, the people that were carrying records, and just needed something to shout, like to identify us. And Cypher came up with Federation. It came from Star Trek, because he's a TV nerd and a Star Trek nerd. And so that was really just like before the sound system. So this is pre-99. So this is probably like 97, 98 or whatever. And then that just was the crew. And Cypher and I have been best friends ever since, through like, he technically couldn't be a part of Federation and Pitbulls at the same time. And so technically, when we started Federation as the sound, all of the early dub plates have my name, Kenny Mees, the other founding partner, and Cypher Sounds. And so Cypher had to kind of like step off of technically being in Federation to continue on his radio path. But we remained best friends all the way through ever since.
How did you start developing into a sound system? Like, you guys just started doing more dancehall parties, reggae parties?
So myself and Kenny Mees, who was from Philly, I had known Kenny since about 93, and through another mutual friend. And Kenny and I both kind of similar. Kenny was a big graffiti writer in Philly, but then also a hip hop DJ. And we kind of had similar paths as hip hop DJs, and also similar paths of just getting more and more and more into reggae. So Kenny and I were always like on record shopping, 7 inches, doing remixes, working on stuff and whatever. And Kenny was like, he was in Philly, and he was like, "Yo, Junior Reed is coming to the dub plate studio. I've been hanging out with the guy who's got the dub plate studio. Yo, you want to kick in some money, like $100 each? We could voice a Junior Reed dub plate." I was like, all right, cool. And the main reason why we wanted to do that was because when you voice the dub plate, you get it split left and right. So you have the acapella. Before, you could just press a button and have an acapella of anything. So having an acapella, and Kenny was remixing stuff on MPC and doing all that kinds of stuff. So I was like, sure. So we voiced Junior Reed One Blood, and I think it says our names in the intro, but there was no sound name because it was just me and him. And then someone else was coming. I think maybe Mr. Easy was coming to the studio like a month later. And was like, "Yo, Mr. Easy's coming to the studio." This is when Bruck out and Showtime were out. Mr. Easy had big songs on both rhythms, and so King was like, yo, you want it? I was like, yeah. He was like, yo, but he was like, yo, if we're gonna keep doing this, he was like, we should just come up with the sound name. There should be something in there. And I was like, yeah. He was like, what do you think about Federation? He's like, that's already like the crew, and he was extended part of that crew. That was like I said, like mine and Cypher's New York crew, and Kenny had kind of become a part of that.
Got it.
And so Kenny was like, yo, what about Federation? And I was like, that sounds dope. Let me talk to Cypher. And Cypher was like, yeah, let's do it. And so then it was Federation Sound, and that was where it came from, and it had just evolved from basically like from our squad. But Kenny really had the idea of taking the name Federation, was the one at the dub studio like, yo, let's do this.
Yeah.
He's got a dub on that mix that night where he's playing the Treat You Man dub.
There's probably a couple, like the TOK is a dub.
It's a dub.
And there's probably a few others in there, because I think, like I said, there's 2 reggae sets on there. So that was really how that started. And then, you brought up Cypher being one of the early guys who really played a lot of reggae and Caribbean music on the radio, which is true. But it's funny because, and Cypher gives me a lot of credit for this, because he was like, yo, Max was always playing a lot of reggae and would like put me up. So I was the one that would be like, yo, this record and kind of like get into that place beyond, okay, here's the one set that you need, and be like, okay, no, we gotta hit this, we gotta hit that, we gotta hit this. And at those times, he didn't have his own radio slot. He would fill in for Flex. Or he would just do fill-in slots. And in some of those fill-in slots, he would be like, yo, you want to do the reggae mix? I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. But I couldn't do it officially, so it couldn't be like me on the air doing it. So there are a bunch of times, like early on, I would do like a 12 or 15 minute reggae mix on DAT, give it to Cypher, and then that will play on the radio when he was doing like Flex's 5-hour set. And he would sort of do the slick thing of like shout me out and Federation throughout the whole thing. But it wasn't like, but it was very cool. Like there's like the first time you hear your name shouted out on Hot 97 is a big deal.
Big deal.
It's a huge deal. And so then even just hearing, like I love for other people to love reggae and hear more of it. That's like a big part of Federation and like why I like doing what I do. So I was just excited to hear like Bruck out rhythm and like shit that wasn't in
rotation
in a regular rotation kind of get played on the radio. So I was like, yo, this is dope, and it's my DJ, and like I don't care. And so we do that little by little. And Cypher was getting more and more into it, and we would make sure he had the records. And my boys had Music Ambassador distributor in Brooklyn, which became like the biggest 7-inch distributor. So we kind of had early stuff and test pressings of 7 inches, and would always make sure he had all that. And then he's at the radio, so he was tight with Bobby and Jabba. So then artists would come and they'd be like, yo, lace something up for Cypher. Cypher plays a lot of reggae on the radio outside of the specialty show, because then the reggae shows were catering only really to the Caribbean community. But then Cypher shows, when he was finally got his own shows and had the More Fire mix on Saturdays, that's like prime time. Everybody. Black, white, Spanish, Yankees, Caribbean people, everyone. And he had that More Fire mix, and so had the time slot and cared about putting a lot of Caribbean music on the air. I'll make an easy segue for you, because that's why Cypher was the first one that was given Ponda Replay to play, because he was the guy that was breaking all of those records and was playing Elephant Man, Sean Paul, TOK, and all of these things early. So when there's this like unknown, no-name 17-year-old girl from Barbados with a song that's very Caribbean, basically Diwali rhythm.
Not quite Diwali, but very similar.
Not quite. It's not a sample of Diwali, but it's clearly built, modeled after Diwali. And so that's why Mark Jordan and Mr. Morgan,
shout out Mr. Morgan,
took it to Cypher. I mean Morgan directly, because Morgan is also like a very, very long time friend of all of ours. So Mark Jordan was her manager, the one that took her to Jay and got her signed. And Mark brought Morgan on because
he had his experience with Cardinal Official.
With Cardinal, had done indie promo for Green Sleeves, and knew and cared about Caribbean music and knew the people and the places, which DJs in each market is like, no, this is the guy that'll gravitate towards that. So
it was completely on brand for Cyph, you know.
Totally, and so for
him to be in the video, it all made sense.
Yeah, and so he gave so they gave that record to Cyph, and she'll say it too. It was like Cyph is the first person that ever played Palm the Replay, played it on Hot 97 on a Saturday, and I was in my kitchen and heard it, and it's like Cyph's my guy, but also like, I don't have the show on every day. I have it on when I'm around or whatever. It's in the background doing something. Like, and I heard that, and I was like, yo, Cyph, what? I heard, no, he shouted Mr. Morgan, and I think I texted both of them, and I was like, Morgan, what the hell is this? And Morgan was like, oh, gave me the story or whatever. But then through that relationship, that was how Cyph became the DJ in the video. But also he was, you know, this is as you said, in the label days, the heyday of major label money spending. She was doing a bunch. Def Jam was having her do a bunch of showcases, and then they would have artist showcases with 4 or 5 of their artists all over the place. And so Cyph was her DJ for all of those. And at this point, he was on Morning Show and the Saturday mixes. So that record just grew and grew and grew. And Morgan had called me and was like, yo, I want you to meet Mark Jordan. He was like, I want you to meet Mark, Rihanna's manager. This record is growing. I feel like you're a good fit with them because, like, you know your shit, you know your technical shit, you can handle yourself, but also, like, you're on some Caribbean music shit. And I feel like you guys will everyone will just, like, connect and it'll be a good fit. He was like, you know, Cypher's DJing for her, but I know there'll be times when he can't. And that meeting never happened, and the record grew so fast that then all of a sudden there's like 2 shows in another market. Like her first shows, there's a show for Power in Philly. It's like the first show, and Mark just called me and was like, yo, it's Mark, Rihanna's manager, Morgan gave me your number. We got a show in Philly next weekend. Can you come DJ? Cypher's on the radio 6 days a week. You can't travel. That's the thing about being like, you don't just pop in and out of that. Like, he's on Hot 97 Morning Show and his Saturday mix. So I had never met Mark. I met him in front of his apartment on LaGuardia Place in the Village, right by Washington Square Park. Hopped in an SUV. 2 dancers, I think, hopped in, and then we drove to Philly. And on this drive to Philly, you're so-and-so. Like, Mark and I had never met, but knew all of the same people. He knew my people, I knew his people. It was cool, Mark is Trini, and had been an exec at Columbia prior to going independent and doing management. And so we just drove down to Philly. It was like a rainy day. We didn't get to do sound check because it was raining at sound check. The show was outside. It was the middle of the summer. The show was outside in the projects in North Philly.
Wow. North.
This is rugged. This is very rugged territory. And so, like, it was raining. We didn't know if we were going to do the show, whatever. And then, so no sound check. And then it clears up. Okay, time to do the show. Downstairs in the hotel lobby, I'm sitting there with Mark. Rihanna walks down. I meet her for the first time, and then 45 minutes later, we're on stage doing the show together.
Yeah.
No rehearsal.
That's crazy.
No nothing. Hey, so nice to meet you. I mean, we knew the track list. We had an established track list. As a matter of fact, Cyph, for the shows that Cyph had done, and she basically didn't have any songs. So
yeah, I was gonna ask you what was the track list?
The intro was like Welcome to Jam Rock instrumental. Then she maybe had 2 songs, maybe If It's Lovin' That You Want, which is a dope. Yeah, I love, and it's the
BDP sample.
It's the BDP sample to connect it all. So maybe that existed at the time, and and she would do a cover of Sizzler, Give Me a Try, in there, and maybe like one other cover. But so Syph had, he didn't record them doing it together live. He just went and recorded the set with how he was doing it. Yo, ladies and gentlemen, straight out of Barbados, 17 years, I'll make some noise. Like his exact script, and then was like, played that instrumental, played the next one, played the next one. So I was listening to it on a CD and basically did the show word for word,
right?
What Cypher said. I just literally like used his script because we had never met, we had never rehearsed, and just did this show. And it was crazy because it was also like 1,000 degrees out in the park in North Philly. We were on like an 8x8 riser. Like it was not a big show.
Was a song on TRL by this time? Was it bubbling like on there or not yet?
I have very limited memory of anything to do with anyone's videos. My timeline doesn't ever relate to videos. This was her first show. It was really the first show outside of New York.
Oh wow!
It was like a radio show in Philly, and then they were like, okay, we got one in 2 days in DC. Can you come to that? And I was like, all right. And it just kept going because there kept being more and more and more and more shows, and the record kept growing. And so like from having like never having really discussed it, and just was like, we just kind of ended up on the road for 3 years from that initial, like I said, it was Cypher and Morgan that both were like, Max is the guy to do this. Like Syph really wanted to do it, but was like, at this point, there's no way he can give up the radio thing.
And you loved the record, and like you were like, this is a great artist.
I had just immediately hit it because I like this song.
Because I'm assuming they weren't paying that much, right? Or in the beginning, or was it decent? Because when I was,
it was decent. Yeah. It was Def Jam, and I quickly.
It didn't get in the way of any of your nightclub shit.
No, but you know what was interesting was at this point I had fallen way back from clubs. I wasn't that guy that we just listened to in the clubs. I was like way focused on my reggae stuff.
Okay,
I was not really. I would travel overseas and do like hip hop clubs, but I wasn't, as I mentioned earlier, like I never was the guy to be like, yo, I know you have a party, yo, I want to play this, that, and the other thing. I'm just not good at marketing and selling myself.
Right.
And my heart wasn't really in those clubs as they had turned to bottle service. I liked what we listened to, and I liked rocking a dance floor full of people, and music, some of the music I didn't love, and I can always play music that I don't personally love if I can get the response from the crowd, because that's what I love more than anything. Like I don't have to love every record that I play. If there's a record that I hate, I probably won't play it, but like if I can make 1,000 people on the dance floor go crazy, I love that.
So, but were there more opportunities for you to start, transitioning over to just full reggae and dancehall parties?
I was just finding and creating my lane in that space. We were doing mixtapes. I had started working with Vybz Kartel. We'd done a mixtape with Kartel and doing that. So I was like, that was where I wanted to be. So I was making more of an effort, and it was financially not a great decision. But so when the Rihanna thing came along, it was kind of in a time where I didn't have to give up any residencies because I didn't have any. They had kind of dwindled. They had kind of dwindled. Cassidy was everywhere. There was a next set. Soul had started to, Soul came in before Cassidy, but also Soul had started to be everywhere in the downtown clubs, and those guys were killing it.
Right.
You were still heavily out in those and doing them well. And I also felt like I was kind of in a place where I was starting to not do them as well as I felt they should be done because I just wasn't loving it that much. And I really don't like doing. I don't like DJing if I don't feel like every night's not going to be your greatest night, but I really didn't like the feeling of doing it and not being that into it, and not giving it. I can have an off night as long as I know that I gave it, and I just didn't have it that night.
Right.
Because anyone who says they don't have that is full of shit, right? But also, like, your off night and my off night can be like people in the club will be like, yo, this was the greatest night of my life. And I'll be like, cool, I appreciate that.
Right.
I know that it didn't
play as well as I could have.
Like happy birthday Goldie night. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like, so I wasn't loving that. And a lot of it had to do with, again, the change in the dynamic of what the clubs were and these smaller clubs and that, and I wasn't, and a new set of promoters that I was never really like.
This is the post 9/11 that I always hear about from a lot of DJs.
I was never a hangout. At this point, I didn't drink. I just chilled from drinking because I was out DJing so much. I never really did drugs. And so like the social aspect of hanging with the promoters and hanging with people, I never really did. I was like I would go, and not that I didn't go wild out and do my own shit, but like I would go, I would DJ, and when I was done, I would leave. You know what I mean? I wasn't hanging out in the club, except on a very rare occasion. So I also became less of people's go-to, because if you got like
you gotta be in
three other people that are there
in people's faces and politicking and everything.
Yeah, and politicking, like and I just that wasn't. I was never good at that, and that wasn't my thing. And I didn't I wasn't at a table with bottles. I just was like, oh, cool. I get to DJ. I love music. This is so cool. I get to be in the club and DJ. Oh, there's Puffy. Oh, there's Naomi Camp. Wow, this is cool. Like kind of just from like a nerdy bedroom DJ perspective, which in hindsight, like if I'd done some of the political stuff, but like I said, I didn't love doing that. So at that point, I didn't have to give up any residency, so it was kind of like a perfect fit. Whereas Cypher couldn't do it because he had, aside from all that radio, he was clubs nonstop. And I was definitely in like a lull of working in clubs, because that would have been, Pon de Replay came out in 2006. So that was 2006. So we kind of got into that early 2000s era, and you said post 2001, and the sort of start of the move to bottle service and away from big clubs. So at that point, I was super happy for the opportunity. I thought it was really interesting. It's like an interesting challenge. It's different.
And it was on brand for you. It makes sense.
It was totally on brand. And when I met her, got along really well. Also got along really well with Mark. So it was like a comfortable group of people to be with. It was obviously Def Jam, so I was able to make sure that I was getting paid not just for shows, but for travel days, for off days, per diem, some of the stuff that I didn't really know about when I was younger. That's always like my number one piece of advice when people start working with artists, is like, like those off days are work days for you. And they did very good business, to Mark's credit and to her credit. And when look, like, you know what it's like as an upcoming artist, she did tons of shows for free.
Had to to get her name out, especially that first album.
I did 0 shows for free, and I didn't have to fight for that, because the makeup artist, the hairstylist, the dancers, and the DJ, we're working, we're blue collar. Like, it's good for us to be there, but they never treated us like, yo, it's a great look for you to be on stage with her. So in that respect, it was comfortable enough in terms of like, the income that it provided. And then when we got to a next point, and I was like, okay, I can do after parties and kind of build on top of that. But it was very much the right thing at the right time.
And this is around about the time when Def Jam started pushing reggae. They started doing a Def Jamaica.
Right.
So they was doing like, the Beanie Man and that Vitamin, what was that Mistake record? With Shauna?
Yeah, Dude.
The Dude Rhythm.
Right.
They did that. They did... Well, it was funny because I was involved in that too. But that album had the Front and Pharrell Jay-Z remix with Vybz Kartel and Wayne Marshall on it, which Cypher Sounds and and Disco D
and
did.
And the Cableton stuff they had on that.
So there was like a little wave. I think that had been just before, but so that had sort of built up to that.
Because Jamrock had came out on that.
Yeah. No, but it was interesting because even though Jay signed Rihanna directly, really at the time, like, you remember Tierra Marie was on Rockefeller. Tierra Marie was the Princess of the Rock.
Yes.
And at first, she really, that was who people were looking at because that was like.
And actually, she sold more than Rihanna in the first trip.
At first,
yeah.
And so we slugged it out. Like we did a lot of work. She went and did a lot of promo shows. We did, then the record grows a little, and we go do, various pop station, summer splash, summer jams, and we're on lineups with like a dozen artists, and we're performing first or second. Getting shit on, you don't get a sound check, and you're performing on the front 8 feet of the stage with the curtain dropped, and this is how much space you have because
the big artist got the whole stage.
Right, of course,
because like there literally was one in Boston where it was like that, and it was us and like Kanye was performing, and it was an 8-track was DJ for him, and Meatloaf.
Wow.
Like Meatloaf had a resurgence, had like that big pop record. And so like, and we're like the littlest.
That's crazy.
Little guys. And we went around the country and did that for like 2 years.
But look where she's at now, man.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Crazy.
Like those humble ass beginnings.
Well, speaking of that, insane popularity, Sean Paul. What's up with that?
Sean, like, I met Sean in 1999. It's got to be 99. No, it might be 98. Infiltrate was out.
Yeah.
I don't think Deport Them was out yet. Infiltrate was out, and it was on probably Reggae Gold, whatever year that was. Someone could fact check it. And there was a Reggae Gold in-store at a legendary record store, Tower Records on West 4th.
Wow.
Which is a whole other thing. But that was sort of like, not as like a DJ record store, but as like your tapes and CDs and albums place. That was the place. That was the New York record store for many, many years. There was a Reggae Gold in-store, VP Records, Massa B, Bobby and Jabba were hosting it and DJing. There were a few other artists, and a good friend of mine, Jackie Jusium, who knew Sean and Sean's manager, Jeremy Harding at the time, who also produced Infiltrate, Playground Rhythm. Linked me up with them, and I remember going, there's like a second, there's like this little stage, and kind of like before or after, there's like, those little record store manager offices, and just meeting Sean and Jeremy in the Tower Records manager's office. Sean had the bald head and the goggles on, old school, and met there, and I've honestly been friends from that day till now. Worked together a bunch, also, but just one of the most solid dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's someone I get a happy birthday call on my birthday from.
Happy birthday, Max.
And somehow, Jug Frank saying happy birthday, Goldie, is still more iconic. That's it, bro. Bro, hold on. I'm gonna go not even out on a limb. That's up there with Marilyn Monroe, JFK. Happy birthday. That is our hip hop, Marilyn Monroe.
That's funny.
JFK.
That's funny.
We gotta make shirts.
That's funny. So you worked in the thing that I want to kind of point out to everybody is like you're actually working with the Jay-Z's of the reggae genre.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, look, and so we just kept the relationship. And so Sean's brother is a DJ, Jason Jigzag from Copper Shot, which is a big sound in Jamaica. And when Sean first started blowing up, his brother didn't even have a visa to travel to the U.S.
Shit.
So they would call me. We had met. Not my first, but like some of my earliest dub plates. These have Cypher's name in them. Some of the earliest Federation dub plates got on a CD. Sean Paul dub plates. It was like, yo, this is incredible.
And you did an album too, right? Didn't you do like a Federation album?
I did a like a dancehall classics compilation with Ultra Records with Sequence, and so Sean would just start coming up, and he would have a show here, a show there. Can you come DJ for this? Can you come DJ for that? Oh man, we got a call. We're gonna go do Give Me the Light on Rap City. Can you come DJ that? So that was kind of where like then the working relationship just came about, and over the years, and like it's interesting, like Sean and Rihanna both have they're very different, but there's like a similar quality. Both of them are really like they're just themselves, and I think that's why fans connect to them. Neither of them are this like aloof, kind of like unattainable, superstar, even though Rihanna really is, but also is just like incredibly personable and personal with people. And you see little clips of her meeting people and just being like genuine, you know, just like it's like a regular ass person. But you mentioned it also, just like both incredibly hard workers, people who just understood that to get to the places, I don't know, where maybe neither of them even thought they could get, but just to keep moving ahead in this, like, you have to keep working. And there's this thing of like, a lot of people get some success and like a big record and go, I've made it. And they get very hard to deal with, diva-ish, difficult, a lot of demand, whatever. And like, you've probably seen this over and over and over. And to me, I've watched it firsthand, that like, that moment when you have like a success that seems like a big success, that's where you really actually have to start working. Yeah. That's where the work starts. You have to pick up from there and take that momentum and go as hard as possible. And those are two people that, again, that I know personally, that I worked with, that I watched, just, you know, work harder than most other people that I've seen, and just do all of the yo, we got to do an interview, yo, we got to do this, yo, there's a photo shoot, yo, there's a this, yo, there's a that, and didn't complain about it, and didn't, oh, can we do it? And you know, show up late to things, miss things, respect people's time, and go and do what you came there to do it at a high level, and keep elevating. But they both have this this very common, I think, thing that's just
work ethic.
Yeah, work ethic, and just really being naturally themselves, and not having grown and kind of become
something else,
the artist that people look at them as. And it's one of the things that I like. You know, I did an interview, like a one-on-one sit down with Sean Paul for the 20th anniversary of Dutzy Rock, which I guess was like a year and a half ago, at the Brooklyn Public Library. It was like a sit down thing with like 90, 100 people in the audience. And the thing that people said to me more than anything, people that I know and strangers that came up to me afterwards, was like, oh my God, he's so funny. I didn't realize, like, he was just, and I was like, you know, I like, people's kind of impression was like, I didn't realize he was just like such a regular guy, one of us. And you just sit around and have like this, like a great conversation. And that's who, you know, that's who he really is.
Now with the reggae artists, have you found that, well, it used to be a time where reggae was so prevalent. Like, you had the Diwali era. You had such a great time where it was like Sean Paul was in his prime. Like the Dirty Rock album was exploding everywhere, and it was more vocal in, I wouldn't say just New York, but I think America-wise, it was very much focus.
It was big. It was like pop music.
It was definitely a time where it was more the focus. Now, is that because of the problems with the back and forth of the visas, or them being able to come over? Like, what is it? Because it seems like it's going through a resurgence again, Jamaican music or Caribbean music. Yeah, where it's starting to boil back up. You know what I mean?
But there was a period during the 2010s where there was like almost, it felt like there was an absence of dancehall.
Yeah.
And then there were different reasons. There were like people saying that, I think some of the people were like, well, they're already big in the Caribbean. They don't need to come to the U.S. anymore. And then there was the visas thing. And then,
I mean, I think, look, like I think the popularity of dancehall has been cyclical, you know, so it comes and goes. I mean, it doesn't ever go. But the wave is higher and lower.
Right.
Certainly in that era, you know, the thing about visas is a real thing, you know, which, as like Americans, people don't even think about visas. You got that blue passport, like, you get on a plane and you go really almost everywhere in the world. There are a few places you need a visa for. But I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, a Jamaican citizen traveling on a Jamaican passport, needs a visa to travel to the U.S. And almost everywhere in the world, a lot of places, like not throughout the Caribbean, and there are a few countries in Europe. And that visa application process is expensive, and it's there's no like you know, First Amendment equal rights there. It's, you know, the same way your passport says this document belongs to the U.S. government. This can be they can take your shit whenever they want.
Yeah.
And the visa is, you know, they traditionally they can be denied for any reason. You know, criminal records, large and small. A lot of times for people, they want proof of income. Not only proof of income, they want proof of large amount of money in the bank, because, you know, U.S. immigration is going, oh, well, what's to prevent you from just staying in the U.S. and working? You know, so and they want family ties and all of this stuff.
Who are you coming to see?
Who are you coming to see? And so just because you're like a big artist and you're like, no, I have a tour, that doesn't automatically get you through.
Really?
And it's at the pleasure of the U.S. government. It's not anything, you know, look, you have to have an expensive lawyer. Immigration lawyers are expensive and it's time consuming. And so there's a lot of money to be spent on that.
It's way too much trouble.
It's a lot of trouble. Right. And then also there's the other thing that you mentioned of there are certain people and at certain times where, look, it's hard if you're the biggest thing in Jamaica or the Caribbean and you're getting huge amounts of money for shows. You're universally loved and adored, swarmed by fans everywhere that you go. Mm-hmm. You're a huge fish in that pond. I'm not even going to say it's a small pond, but you're a huge fish in that pond. But if you know, when you step into the U.S. market and then the international market, in order to achieve and succeed, you're going to be required to do the things that I was talking about with Sean and Rihanna,
right.
Which
maybe not all of them is equipped to do.
Maybe not humble yourself, but so Sean and Rihanna start from a place of being humble people. Mm-hmm. But if you're like up in this other stratosphere and you're the guy or the girl, then that humbling of yourself to, you know, go, you know, sit for a half hour and wait for your time to get on Hot 97 with Flex, because you're not the most important thing to Hot 97. To go do a promo show for a radio station, to go, you know, sit and talk to a journalist from Billboard for a 2-line mention in a thing.
Right.
Yeah,
a lot of times
it's hard if you're seen as a god and one of the biggest stars in your market, and then you have to come and almost be treated like an upcoming artist, and then it's humiliating. It can be borderline disrespectful, right?
Yeah, no, totally, you know? Totally. And you can also just be like, I don't have time for this shit. I can be over here making $20,000 while I'm sitting here doing this thing for free that I don't really see what the value in it is for me.
And then it's also the U.S. market deeming like, well, dancehall, they're like, you know, it's all about pop trends.
Right.
They could just be like, oh, you know, dancehall's really not, reggae's not hitting like it used to. So
and then there's the language barrier as well.
Right.
So where things may come across a different way, a person talking to you, whatever.
Right. And then people are like, oh, well, we got Drake for these cool kind of dancehall Caribbean / Afrobeats things. Right. You know, like commercial radio programmers are like, oh no, we got a cool, you know, like, and it's interesting. But then like a record like, you know, Rihanna Work comes around and that brings back, and a lot of those Drake records kind of like created an era of interest in
it's a gift and a curse to a certain degree.
So it's a gift and a curse. Yeah. It's cyclical. You need people who are willing, you know, artists who are willing. Shaggy's another great example of this, of like people that are willing to do the work. Like the work of being a successful pop artist is like real fucking work. It feels
like it's making a turn again, because like Buju, he just had an amazing run, Madison Square Garden, he sold that out. He's doing these big concerts now, and you have like a nice little bubbling under with, you know, the TJ guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
It feels like it's about to make, and Vybz Kartel comes back out, and the interest is very high for him. And
there's also like a bunch of key records that started coming out recently that kind of crossed over.
Yeah.
And some people are calling it Afrobeats, and it's like, no, it's actually like a dance. So this is a reggae record.
But do you find that Afrobeats kind of helping the movement a little bit, move a little bit?
I mean, it's interesting. I think initially Afrobeats, in the context of like dancehall and reggae, Afrobeats really first, and before we're in the place where we are now, where it's pop music, Afrobeats really filled a void in good time party music for girls.
Gotcha.
Which had all but disappeared from dancehall.
Gotcha.
Getting into an era of, they call this chopper dancehall, trap dancehall. And the thing about dancehall and reggae, like that we came up in, is there's always balance. There's there's
the slackness,
Vybz Kartel and there's Sizzler.
Right.
And you'll hear both of those in the same night.
Right.
Getting the same amount of forwards.
Yeah, right.
And just the same way hip hop has like evolved into a different place, and you don't have Top Billin playing with fucking Ice Spice.
Right.
Like in the 90s, like whoever those two were, those things would meet in that club and in that place.
Right.
And so dancehall like kind of experienced that, where there was less of the balance and counterbalance. Not that one is good and the other is bad, but just the balance that keeps equilibrium.
Right.
The equilibrium in the force.
Right.
But the thing that people don't realize, that because they're only focused on the U.S. pop market or like the top 40 market, is that, let's say like Afrobeats, or reggaeton, right, or Latin music. There was like 2017 where there was like Despacito. There was this like huge emergence of Bad Bunny.
Play Bad Bunny.
Right. Yeah, play Bad Bunny. And then there was this huge emergence of like reggaeton. And then it feels like it disappeared from the pop market.
Right.
But all it did was grow in the Latin market.
Right.
And the Latin market got bigger.
Right.
Right.
And the same thing's happening with the like Afrobeats and Amapiano.
It feels like that.
Where it feels like it's not part of the pop market, but
The
individually in its
right.
overall market,
Right.
it's growing exponentially.
Right.
And with dancehall, I feel like in the 2010s, the same thing was happening, but it felt like I felt like the States and New York was kind of like an outsider of it all.
It felt like that.
Like we weren't a part of it a little bit.
It was like a different type of underground was being created.
Yeah.
Well, so like to me, the place where like it all kind of seems to be to me now is that as Afrobeat has gotten so big and so popular, and they're one thing that gets left out of that conversation is the continent of Africa is huge. The amount of people are huge.
Right.
It's a very diverse, very broad, but if we go Afrobeats, the continent of Africa,
and that's a big issue.
But here's the thing is, there's a massive base, and a lot of those guys like the Davidos and WizKids were filthy rich before we ever heard of them. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And those guys and women in their places, and dancehall and reggae has a smaller core, and the workings of the core and the industry and the business of it haven't always supported the growth of dancehall.
Right.
The kind of auxiliary support to get there. I think dancehall has less of that, and maybe that's just because again there's less people, but then like now you see like there's all these Afrobeat parties and they're full of Nigerians and people from Ghana and from this, and like that wasn't what the clubs were like in this other era that we're talking about. But those people have always been there listening to whatever the current iteration of their pop music is, because really like Afrobeat is pop music. It's pop music of the various countries and the continent of Africa, right?
Yeah. Like I think I was speaking with Eddie McDonald, and Bobby Connors did like a Vegas like dancehall reggae set there for Eddie's birthday or something. And he said there's been more of a demand for soca. Like soca's just been kind of like
soca's been growing like crazy.
Yeah.
Where like you wouldn't hear like in those downtown spots, like we wouldn't play soca in those spots.
Right.
And now, like the equivalent of that definitely would. And I don't know about you, but again, I didn't grow up in Brooklyn around it, but like as a reggae DJ, I didn't play soca for a long time.
Right.
There would be a soca DJ for that.
Soca seemed like it was more involved and it was a lot more personal because it's a story that kind of goes with those songs to a certain degree. With dancehall, you can kind of, not say fake it, but you can kind of not have to be involved to play the music.
You could get it. Like you connected to hip hop. Red Alert was playing reggae on it. You could hear the Red Alert records. You could hear what Bobby was playing with Sting International.
Right.
But like 8 to 10 years ago, there was like, I only needed like 4 to 6 soca records. But now like you need like a ton. There's like so many records that it's like the new. It's and like you need to do a soca set.
No, they come out really quick too.
But again, it also works for girls, and it also ties and works with the Afro beats. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like that whole tempo universe is kind of growing together.
You can't even get that kind of energy. Like the way soca, it's like
there's nothing.
It's an unprecedented energy in all of Caribbean music. I would almost say.
Like, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And then forget about it. If you ever go to Carnival and you just go, holy shit, why would I ever do anything but this? This is like, there's no, like, it's no songs about, I mean, there's like a few things about haters, but like, it's strictly about just
it's positive, running out,
just
having unbridled sex.
Energy, running around, having fun, being free. It's straight, let yourself go, have a great time music. And again, dancehall got very, dancehall, traditionally had that. It had the other elements and everything in equal balance, but it got very far away from having those things in equal balance. So there was this like shortage of, records for girls and the sort of like escapism, fun, Beanie Man dude, everyone falls in love.
Right.
Then you'd have like the hardcore records that would, what's closer to crossover, Welcome to Jamrock, Baby Sham, Ghetto Story. Reggae covered that. And there's also, this is the thing, kind of like, this is very currently the Afrobeats discussion, where there was kind of like a back and forth about something about it, and then was like, oh, why are they not doing this, that, and the other thing? And Tyler, one of them, the other woman, what's her name? Ira Star, one of them was like, this music is our escapism. This, you know what I mean? Like the same way you were just describing soca, like this music is to celebrate and have fun. Afrobeats isn't there to give you like knowledge of self and cultural, like that type of foundation. Like there are other things for that culturally, whereas like we grew up with hip hop, like I read the autobiography of Malcolm X because I heard about listening to Public Enemy, and then I'm like, oh, let me read about this. So there was like we all came up in a hip hop world where there was that, and then there was also like,
Tribe Quest or Hammer.
Ain't no half stepping, and you're like, you don't have to go full Hammer like Kane, who could also give you the other thing, and it was kind of all there, and there was that kind of balance. And then again, this is like a place where we are with hip hop, and it's like it's all there, but it's totally separated. You know what I mean? Like conscious rap, party rap, shake your ass rap or whatever.
Right.
And the thing with Afrobeats is they're just like, no, like this type of our music is to party. It's party. Right. Like Two Live Crew, like Luke, they made music for you to shake your ass to.
Right.
Somebody else can make that X-Clan shit.
I've seen this conversation online on Twitter about Afrobeats, but they were saying that like there are artists like Burna Boy and maybe Wizkid that have certain songs that talk about liberation. And
for sure, here and there, yes. Yeah. I think, and again, I'm not super knowledgeable about Afrobeats, but I did just see someone, an Afrobeats artist, kind of making that statement of like, because I think this particular artist or the genre itself was being sort of attacked as not being
sustainable or whatever, or just like one of those type of things that had that much merit. Because
it's not having depth and not being revolutionary.
Right.
And their point was, no, that's not what this is for. Like, there's other stuff for that. You're trying to put your borders on this type of music that
wasn't his purpose.
And again, there'll be exceptions for sure, but here's what it's here for, being told to you by the people that are making it.
Yeah.
If you're expecting it to be, the voice of like, freedom fighters and slave labor and diamond mines in Africa, like that's real shit, but
it's not that music.
That's not what that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn. Like I think there's a ton of like miseducation, especially in the States, about even the difference between Afrobeats and Amapiano, and Nigeria and South Africa. They just call everything that's African Afrobeats.
Even things that aren't African get called Afrobeats.
Like we were talking, like everyone thought Taliban's huge record was an Afrobeats record, and it was dancehall. But there's a ton of that miseducation and ignorance going on, but it doesn't really matter in the States, Like Tyler, I think she just won like some what was
VMA.
VMA. Tyler just won a VMA. And she was kind of like, it was in the Afrobeats category, and she's like, I'm from South Africa, and we're known for Amapiano, and what I make is Amapiano.
We don't necessarily we don't refer to our music as Afrobeats.
Right. So she did it in a respectful way, like, shout out to Nigerians who make Afrobeats, but I'm from South Africa and this is Amapiano, but I graciously accept the award, but this is not Afrobeats. And Americans, like all the Americans, were just kind of like, yo, she's like disrespecting, she's not African, and they just don't understand the difference.
I mean, this is a very typical American thing to apply our understanding of things to everyone else's things.
Shit.
And they don't.
In sports, we're the world champions and don't play nobody.
They don't play nobody in the world. Yeah, they're like the world. Footballers are like, World Series? Who did you play? All of the teams are from America. No, but
Denver and Miami. Yeah.
But I think, look, like it's certainly up to the people who make the music to decide what if anything they want to identify it as. You know what I mean? Like I care a lot less about what something is called versus, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Versus what
is actually coming out or whatever.
Yeah, versus the, like, do I like it? Ooh, I can play it. Right. Ooh, where can I play it? Ooh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than what it's called.
Well, what's your relationship with Vybz Kartel? You've worked with him a lot, right?
Yeah, a fair amount.
Did you get a call from Vybz when he got out?
I have not gotten a call. Shockingly, I have not gotten a call. No, I sent my regards via WhatsApp through a person who I know is by his side almost daily.
Right.
Dope.
And I haven't heard back, but I just look, I don't.
It's only been a couple of weeks. So,
but also like with artists, very rarely. I don't feel like anybody owes me anything as an artist or as a friend. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be a wild time in life. Like this guy's been in jail for 13
years. Yeah.
I said to Hale that I'm pretty sure got delivered. Yo, Max said, "What's up? Cool. See you when I see you."
Yeah.
I mean, the relationship goes back to really about 2002, 2003. I think his first album came out in 2003 on Greensleeves, and prior to that, again through Jackie Jusium, who I mentioned earlier, which was my link to Sean Paul and Jeremy Harding. Jackie was working consulting for Greensleeves, and Mr. Morgan was also consulting for Greensleeves at the same time. Jackie was like, "Oh, you guys have been doing, it's only a couple years into Federation. You guys have been doing mixtapes. You guys should do a mixtape with Vybz Kartel. Da 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 da. He's dope. He's bubbling." And I'm like, I know the few songs that have bubbled up, and he's definitely like, "Yo, this is the guy of the streets." Or talking about, yeah, oh, this is great. Connected it, and then boom, I'm in Portmore in a bedroom studio with like Jamaican interior design is lots of ceramic tile and concrete walls, so not the greatest sound room. And in a room with him, a guy named Cassette Jones, who's a legendary reggae kind of tape and CD guy, a couple chairs, microphone, and like a Roland VS 880 digital recorder. And I had brought CDs full of rhythms. I was like, look, here's my ideas, here's what I want to do. And we just sat in one night and I just threw on rhythms, and like I had never worked with them, probably had a conversation or two. And we just sat, I was like, everyone's work process is different. I have no idea what we're going into. Just sat down and I was like, yo, this. I think the first thing we threw on was there was like a Tupac 50 Cent bootleg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Realest Killers.
Realest Killers. Thank you.
That's hard.
That was great.
That was a hard beat.
That was a big record.
Red Spider.
Yeah,
it was a
Red
big
Spider.
record. Yeah.
So I had the instrumental for that, threw it on, and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, what do you want me to put on it? And it was like, just like his process was so crazy. He just was like, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, some hardcore shit. It's a Tupac 50 Cent beat. And he just started just like wheeling off. Then we throw on the next thing, then we throw on the next thing, and throw on some old school dancehall rhythms, some current dancehall rhythms, a couple more hip hop things. Just recorded probably like 16 things in one night. That became the
mixtape and shit.
The mixtape.
Wow,
Federation
crazy.
Sound Vybz Kartel from time to time. And we recorded it on mini disc, or bounced it. Bounced it. This is from off air, from before we started recording. I like to do my callbacks. But yeah, and Cassette Jones. So we recorded everything on the digital, the Roland, and then he bounced it out to a mini disc, which I still have. I have the mini disc sitting on my desk of the original set of stuff that we recorded for this Vybz Kartel mix CD. Did the mix CD, so CDs were what, 74 or 80 minutes, right?
Yeah, 80.
So like you wouldn't waste like that was a resource. So like you would always try to, like, you would fill up a CD. You wouldn't use half of a CD.
Yeah.
So the original material that we recorded for the thing was probably like 34 minutes, but it's all exclusives. Like that's all we need. It's like 34, 42 minutes, whatever. And then we're putting it together and we're like, oh damn, we got mad time left. So then basically just did like a juggling mix of whatever current dancehall was out at the time, and slapped it on the end, and dropped that shit, and burned tons of CDs, sold some, gave tons away. I remember going to Jamaica with suitcases full of them to give out. Cassette Jones was a guy, he was the guy who, like, people recorded live dances and made mixtapes. He had the stall in Halfway Tree in Jamaica. He was the guy. And so him and Kartel grew up together in Portmore. He had them, and then just like little by little over time, and I'm giving them to everyone in the industry up here and Cypher and all of this. And I was getting calls from Jamaica like, yo, like this is all I hear everywhere. And so like, our equivalent of in the days of like, all right, well, like now the internet tells you what the song of the summer is, right? Like back then, like you walked the streets of Brooklyn and the streets of Brooklyn told you what the song of the summer was.
Because the song was playing.
Because it was playing from the store. Playing from the car.
Yeah.
So these guys were like, yo, this is everywhere in Jamaica. And so in Jamaica, it's like, it's the taxi man and the buses. And they were like, yo, every taxi, every bus, Vybz Kartel mix. Because Kartel was just like steadily bubbling, growing bigger. He was the guy. Like, I don't even know who to, it was like 50 Cent before 50 Cent got signed.
Gotcha.
You were like, it was just what everybody was listening to. And then we made that, and it was just like everywhere. And it was really, like I said, it was early on. It was like early 2003. It was before his first album.
And it was just so organic. It was just you guys fucking around
it was just,
in the studio.
It was just me, him, and Cassette Jones sitting down in a room.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's interesting. Everybody works differently, but like there wasn't one beat that we pulled up on the CD that he was like, nah, give me something else. And like I did this whole thing where I was like, you know, he's used to just kind of like going straight through. And I was also like, you know, some people like are comfortable taking directions. Some people just do things the way they do them. And so if you listen back to it, and these are that's actually on Apple Music. Yeah. Most of the Federation catalog is. You can find it other places too, but it's on Apple Music. That first one, Over the Realist Killers beat, is I have him kind of go do an intro, and I was like explaining this in the thing. I was like, all right, I want you to do just like 8 bars of just lyrics, and then we just leave the beat running. I'm like, okay, now I want you to pull it up, but just like talk to me like we're in the studio, like we're just doing a session live. Yo, what about this one? You like those lyrics? You feel that? Let me try something else. And then we're gonna chop into another one.
Okay,
so he kind of like pulls himself up like 4 or 5 times, because I was coming from the element of like I really wanted people up here to kind of get into it and catch it. So like a lot of my ideas about how to put a mixtape together came from like, you know, Tony Touch and Doo-Wop and C of, you know, like and also to guys like, do you remember DJ Ev?
Yes.
And Ev was someone who would take exclusives that were on DATs and make scratches. So he'd be like doubling up records that weren't on record, and there was no Serato, just like doing creative, interesting shit. And you would listen to it and be like, wow. So I kind of wanted, I wanted it to be like a package that presented him in a way that he hadn't been presented before, but it also was like the stuff that he gave us was like some heavy ammo that I had never even dealt with before. I was like, whoa, this is way wilder.
Like some high energy street Jamaican dancehall shit.
No, this was my, like, I had no experience in that, but I think that was what was cool about coming together and both of us just being like, okay, well, you do your part, I'll do my part. We trust each other. And we just go, all right, let's see what happens.
Did you ever, like, you went on tour with Rihanna for like 4 years, right? Did you guys ever do something like this where you guys just sat down and fucked around and had her like just freestyling or singing over any type of rhythms?
I recorded dubs. We recorded one time, one session of 3 dub plates with her. And this was one of those things, like, it was one of those things like, so as like this big pop artist, she understands and knows what dub plates are.
Right.
She grew up in Barbados listening to Sizzla and Buju and sound systems and all of that. So I was always like, yo, we got to do some dubs. But also, she's a kid. When we're first on the road, she's 17. She's got so there's like someone from the label, but there's also someone hired independently as a chaperone.
Yeah.
Because she's under 18. And there's a high school tutor. So like they'd be on the plane doing high school equivalency classes. And so like, and things grew so fast that there was just
no real time.
There was no real time to do it. And we always talked about it. And she would always be like, yo, big up Federation. I'd be like, yeah, we got to record something or whatever. And it was funny because the way that it actually happened was we ended up being on a show, like one of these radio shows with Sean Paul. And I took her to meet Sean and his brother and whatever. And like, she was getting big at that point, but this was still like first album, maybe. Yeah, this had to be first album. And so they had met, and she ended up spending a week in Jamaica and recorded the song with her and Sean, Break It Off, which ended up on both of their albums. A guy named Don Corleone produced it. And then after that song comes out, we go back on tour, and we're on tour like, man, we're on tour opening for we're on tour opening for Black Eyed Peas.
Wow.
Black Eyed Peas, which was a fucking amazing show, by the way. I used to watch it every night. It was when Fergie was on the team. Like, it was like,
that's at the peak of their superpowers right there.
I'm not like the hugest Black Eyed Peas fan musically, but again, the same way I said like about a record, like if a record is getting that energy, like their performance was fucking incredible. So I was, and also like I was always interested in it, but like I'm on the road with an artist, like I want to see what are all these, like, what do you do to make that magic or whatever? And so we're on a tour, and we're on a tour bus. Maybe the second time we were on a tour bus. So we're all living on the bus, and Sean had hit me and was like, yo, I need to get a dub of the song with us together for Copper Shot, for my brother. I promised him I would get it. I gotta get that dub or break it off. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, you talk to her and I'll talk to her too. I've been waiting to get mine, but
this is the time, right?
But you as famous Sean Paul,
you gotta initiate it.
Putting in the request is what's gonna
make it easier for me.
Is what's gonna, and then we just put it all together. And I was like, I'll get whatever you need done for Copper Shot. And so it was like literally like finished the last show. We're on the tour bus. It's like time to drive through the night. So everyone is in bunks, and she had the room in the back. And I go, she's like, no, I promise you, I got it. We got it. We'll do it. Laptop. Handheld mic. It was a fake SM58. It wasn't even a real one. And a M-Box Mini on the tour bus. And I preparing for this, like I had written the whole shit out for her, because I was like, like Vybz Kartel can do a dub plate in like a half a second, but like if you've never done it, it's like a different skill to like rework the words and the phrasing, right?
Yeah.
So I had a yellow pad that
the syllables got to be just right. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
So I had a yellow pad, and I had written out her whole thing, and just had it in the stash with me for months at this point. So I got the pad. We're in the back. I have a picture of it. I didn't take any video. I have a picture of it because people always try to be like, oh, you don't have a real Rihanna. And I'm like, bro, like, I'm not going to argue with you. But like, and so we're in the back of the bus, and she's reading off the yellow legal pad. She's got her hoodie up, handheld mic on the back of the bus with like a sweatshirt on. And so we did, had her do her parts of Break It Off for Copper Shot, and then also for Federation.
Nice.
Then sent those to Sean. Sean did his parts. Sent it back. So we have that one. But then I also had really wanted at the time, her ballad Unfaithful was big. Because like you don't really need a ballad anymore. But that was like still just in the tail end of the era of
where you could sing a song and then that'll be like your single.
But like whereas the ballad would be like you got big, and then the ballad was like.
Right.
So her ballad didn't become like her biggest song, but like Unfaithful was
a big song for her, especially for that album.
Big song for the album. Performed it on a million TV shows. Like the ballad was important. And so I had written out like a crazy dub plate version of Unfaithful, and had her do that. So we have so we have Unfaithful and Break It Off.
Shit, it's crazy.
And that was the only time I really did any studio work with her, because there was one other time, which was in Barbados.
Well, you did a remix, right, of What's My Name?
I did a remix of What's My Name with original production by myself and Ricky Blaze.
Yeah.
And original verses from Kartel. And we put that together. I weirdly, she actually sent, I had asked her for the acapella for it, because I was like, yo, I want to do some cool shit. And she was like, cool, no problem, called whoever. And when they sent it to me, it was actually the stems of the whole session.
Oh, wow.
Which at that time was really crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. I was like, all right, now I got to do this for real. So I built the drums and the bass, some of the bass. And then I took it to Ricky Blaze and was like, can you play the music on it? So Ricky played, and then I called Kartel and I was like, yo, I'm going to give this to them and see if they'll put it out for real. If they don't, we're going to put it out ourselves. This is going to be huge. This is fire.
Right.
Are you down? He was like, send it. And so he did a 16 at the front and an 8. And I was like, I need 2 verses. I was like, we're doing it like a real record. This isn't some bullshit. We're doing a real record. And so we did it. I sent it to Def Jam. Because while there was like that phase of Def Jam being into reggae, there's a lot more phases of Def Jam being totally anti-reggae as well. And also industry-wise in New York, there's just a lot of people that just didn't get reggae.
But it was kind of like, it was a weird time because there was like all these remixes with Mims and like Bone Crusher, where like they had these reggae dancehall remixes that went bigger with Sizzler on.
Yes,
and, you know,
and so I sent that to them. I sent it to her. I sent it to Def Jam. I sent it to all of the right people, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And again, like, I'm not a salesman, but this one I was like, yo, come. I was like, look, I was like, this will have the streets on fire. There's nothing hotter than Kartel, and they just weren't into it.
Wow.
They just weren't into it. And so we just put it out. We just put it out everywhere, gave it to everybody. I play it all the time. I still hear people play it all the time.
I remember it was on Digiwax and shit.
Yeah. So like,
shit was
in terms of it getting out there, it was all over the place. And so the only other time that I sat in the studio with her working was, you know, she's on Baby Sham's album on a song called Boom Boom, that they originally had someone else do the vocals for. But again, they wanted to get Rihanna on the album. Mr. Morgan, who's the link to many things. Morgan was working with Rihanna. Morgan was also the A&R at Atlantic at the time, working with Craig Cowman on the Baby Sham album. And so they had agreed. And Mark said, they said, yeah, we'll do the choruses for you. And I ended up in the studio with them when they did that, and it was in Barbados. We were like, finished the show, had to go do it. Sham's album, the whole thing was waiting on it, and like, Sham is my boy, and those guys were kind of like, yo, we know you're with her every day. You got to. Mark said she'll do it, but like, is it like, can you know? Like, they were kind of hitting me on the side, and so I was kind of like, yo, like, I had a good relation. Like, at that point, I was like, it's all family, and I was like, yo, you know, we got to do this Baby Sham thing, right? And they're like, oh yeah. Then we go into the studio, and so I'm like there in Barbados. She does the chorus, and they're like, okay. They're like packing stuff up, and I was like, yo, you know, there's a bridge in this song. Like I knew the song really well because I had been listening to it with the whoever they had do the original vocals, and it was like one of my favorite songs on his album. And I was like, oh, the bridge is wicked. And like, they were trying to pack it up. We did our 8 bars, did the harmonies. I was like, yo, there's a bridge. Everyone's like, all right, Max, fine. So I kind of just like rocked that with them. But like from the beginning, like, I just never. Again, I could have tried to like push my way in there, but I felt like it would have damaged the relationship that I had as DJ doing what I was doing. Like, that's the Jay-Z team. That was Jay Brown, Ty. Like, they have their team.
Play your position.
They do their thing. Right. Her production company that she was signed to were guys that I got very friendly with and knew. The guys who found her in Barbados, like, they were trying to get as many songs as they could on the album. The Def Jam team was doing what they were doing, you know, and so it was just like, I always just felt like that, like trying to get involved in that way would have created tension that would have made me not as able to do what I was there to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Although I would like some publishing now. That would be cool.
Yo, Max, we got to have you come back one of these days, man. Like,
if people aren't bored, I will happily. I will happily.
We got to have you come back.
25 years Federation.
25 years of Federation, yeah, and 30 some of DJing. How long you been DJing?
I don't want to say.
Yo, Max, thank you. Yo, honestly, this has been a bucket list. Thank you so much for coming through, man.
Nah, man, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys having me here. It's wonderful to get to sit here and talk to my friend. Happy birthday, Goldie.
Happy birthday,
I get to talk to Goldfinger, and also just get to be a part of what you guys are doing and have done with such a fucking lineup of great DJs.
Man. And you're joining them. Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy to be invited to the table.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Max GLAZER. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
If you want to watch more episodes from R.O.A.D Podcast, click either links on the left or the right. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and get updated on new uploads throughout the week. Peace.